Chapter 179. When Garashi was officially invited, it was already the next day. Haha, sorry to keep you waiting, Garashi-sama. Speaking of which, we were too shocked when we received the information yesterday. We really didn't expect the truth behind the disappearance of the third Kazekage to be like this. Raza said with a serious expression. In short, thank you very much for your contribution in this matter, Garashi-sama. The surrounding jonins also couldn't help but flatter him. Even the puppet third Kazekage wasn't Garashi-sama's opponent. It's really shocking. If it weren't for Special Envoy Garashi, Zhongliang and Pakura might not have been able to come back. I really envy Woodleaf for having a genius like Garashi-sama. Although Sasori is already a rare genius in San Crypsis, compared to Special Envoy Garashi-sama, he's too far behind. Garashi understood. No wonder they waited until today to officially invite him. Most likely they had been practicing their lines yesterday. It's hard to say these words without embarrassment. Thinking of this, Garashi smiled. Kazekage-sama and Senpai are overpraising me. I just did what I could. What you could do. Everyone's expression was subtle. With your strength, it seems that there's nothing you can't do in the entire ninja world, right? Raza looked calm. Garashi-sama's humility really makes us ashamed. By the way, what was the final result of yesterday's battle? Garashi sighed. I had a chance to kill him, but he threatened me with Pakura's safety, and by the time I reacted, he had already escaped on the puppet third Kazekage. Using the third Kazekage's body as a mount. Everyone was ashamed and angry, and looking at Garashi in front of them, they were even more depressed. They are all geniuses. Why is the difference so big? Raza took a deep breath and asked again. I heard from Zhongliang and the others that Mr. Garashi used an immortal technique of perception with a super large range yesterday. Can we trouble you to help us find Scorpion again and kill him with the combined strength of all of us? Garashi frowned. Let's not talk about whether Scorpion will stay in the desert and wait for us to kill him. The most important question is, Kazekage-sama, have you thought about how to deal with him? Of course, I'll rely on my magnetic evasion. Raza said confidently. Although I don't know how he killed the Sandaime Kazekage, Magnet Release's ability to restrain puppets is absolutely not wrong. Even if the Sandaime Kazekage-sama is a puppet, he will be restrained by me. But what about his poison? Garashi asked. Although his poison is ineffective against me, it is quite fatal for most ninjas. If we push him too far, we will also suffer heavy losses. Of course Raza was just saying it. How could he, a wise, salty fish, do anything on impulse? Therefore, after frowning and thinking for a moment, Raza reluctantly changed the topic. Since there is no way to deal with Scorpion for the time being, I'll have to trouble Mr. Garashi to help us keep this secret. If the villagers know that the person who killed the Sandaime Kazekage is still alive, they will definitely fall into panic. Before I came, I just used this reason to explain to Mr. Naruto why your village is unwilling to send troops. Garashi helplessly spread out his hands. So, Kazekage-sama, you seem to have said it too late. Raza's face was very ugly. Didn't I already say that our San Crypsis is too weak to fight back because the front line is too long and we have enough strength to protect ourselves? Garashi decisively threw the blame, but Naruto-sama didn't believe it, but with this reason Naruto-sama immediately believed it. Should I send a message to Naruto-sama now and ask him not to spread the news? Everyone's face was as uncomfortable as if they had eaten a fly. How could they not understand that Garashi deliberately did this because he saw through their concerns? They were also depressed in their hearts. A casual joint task revealed a big scandal of their San Crypsis. If they didn't know that Garashi and Scorpion had no intersection, and this time they even destroyed so many puppets of the other side, they would have suspected that Garashi was targeting the Sandaime Kazekage from the beginning. Raza took a deep breath. Just say it. What do you want to keep the secret? Garashi smiled. In fact, we only have one request from the beginning, that is, we want San Crypsis to send troops. Raza narrowed his eyes. Is this a threat? Of course not. To be able to establish such a large foundation in such a difficult area, it can be seen that the ninjas of San Crypsis have a backbone made of iron, and they will never compromise because of some threats. Garashi flattered a little. After all, San Crypsis is the village of iron bones. Hearing Garashi's words, Raza's face became better. Then what do you mean? Anyway, we San Crypsis won't. Don't rush to refuse. Garashi smiled. Although San Crypsis ninjas grew up in such a difficult environment, no one should refuse better conditions, otherwise San Crypsis wouldn't have waged war on Woodleaf in the first two wars. Hearing Shueisha mention the last two great shinobi wars, everyone from the Sand Village had a gloomy look on their faces. San Crypsis was beaten in the first 2 wars, and the more they fought, the poorer they became, so this time they were hesitant. Since you have failed twice in a row, why don't you change to a better target? Garashi tempted. Although the land of the Earth country is not as good as the land of our Fire country, it should be much better than the land of the Wind country, right? Hearing this, everyone was a little moved. In fact, they also considered this issue, but because of some concerns they gave up. Therefore, a Jonin asked, "Are you really willing to share the land with us?" Garashi smiled. "Although it is a little rude to say this, we really don't care about the land of the Earth country." To be able to make such a promise, naturally, he has already received permission from Sandaime-sama. Not only do they not care about it, but they also hope that Rock Crypsis and San Crypsis will fight because of this. Compared to hatred, the entanglement of interests is more realistic. San Crypsis had a complicated mood. The fertile land they coveted was something that others didn't care about at all. This feeling was like picking up wood leaves garbage in the trash can. Of course, if they are asked whether they want it or not, they will definitely want it. Therefore, the San Crypsis also rejected the red packet with a shameless face. That's too embarrassing. No. Why don't we divide the territories we've conquered equally? As for the small country sandwiched between the Earth country and the Wind country, they chose to ignore it. The 5 big hooligans want to station troops. Do you dare to disagree? Raza was still a little hesitant. It's good to win the war, but what if we lose? The San Crypsis were moved by the shameless spirit of the Kazekage-sama. For the sake of the San Crypsis, the Kazekage-sama is really exhausted. Regarding this, I can only make a personal promise, Shushi said in a serious tone. Personal? Raza was shocked. Does Garashi also plan to work like him to subsidize the village? Speaking of which, as the inventor of the medical scroll, he seems to be very rich, and we have to pay him a large sum of money for the task this time. Sure enough, a top medical ninja like him can make money faster than robbing money. Thinking of this, Raza's eyes couldn't help but send out a signal. Garashi didn't know what Raza was thinking, but he said seriously, "Since the Chunin exam 2 years ago, I have been consciously deducing the wood-release Kekkei Genkai. Although I didn't succeed, I think I have seen hope. If I succeed in developing it, I will help the San Crypsis to green the desert." Hearing Garashi's strange idea, everyone was stunned. Using wood release to green the desert, is this possible? But as soon as this idea popped up in their minds, they immediately denied it. It's not a question of whether it's possible, but a question of whether it's possible. Not to mention how rare the power of the first Naruto to pacify the warring states was. Even if there's wood release, it's useless without checking. Therefore the Jonin just smiled perfunctorily. Only Raza smiled, thinking that he wouldn't lose out if he agreed. Then it's settled. Chapter 180. That night. Garashi calmly looked at the sapling in his hand, and in the next moment, he ignited a flame and burned it. Sure enough, even if it's me, my wood release isn't much stronger than Mizuki's. With the experience of possessing Mizuki's body, he also understood the mystery of wood release in the past 2 years. In this regard, Mizuki not only didn't have any resistance, but he was also very happy. In Garashi's view, Mizuki's loyalty to him is almost the same as Kimimaro in the original manga. Even if he wants to take Mizuki's body, he will most likely give it to him. Of course, he doesn't have the hobby of coveting other people's bodies like Orochimaru. Garashi pondered for a moment and took out a scroll to summon Hashirama's cells to study. This strong vitality, is it because of yang release? Garashi was a little confused. The Kekkei Genkai formed by earth and water is wood release, but after adding yang release, it still would release. Why isn't it a new form of Kekkei Genkai? Garashi's eyes narrowed slightly. Unless, after adding yang release, the wood release isn't a Kekkei Genkai, but an enhanced version of Kekkei Genkai between Kekkei Genkai and Kekkei Genkai. Yang release and yin release can be combined into a powerful yin-yang release. Maybe there is a transitional form of 5 elements release before Kekkei Genkai. And the root of Hashirama's wood release is that his Kekkei Genkai skipped Kekkei Genkai and 5 elements release and directly had the characteristics of Kekkei Genkai. From the level, it completely crushes other Kekkei Genkai, and it's even stronger than ordinary Kekkei Genkai. Thinking of this, Garashi's expression was dignified. If this is the case, Otsutsuki is at least 2 or 3 levels above the ninja world. No wonder they don't put others in their eyes at all. 5 elements in yin-yang? Do you want to practice one of them first or consciously start from the beginning? At the same time, everyone gathered together during the day. Everyone looked at each other and they were a little confused. Kazekage-sama, is there something we need to discuss now? Raza lowered his voice, "It's about Woodleaf's special envoy." Hearing this, everyone's eyes suddenly lit up. Are they going to attack him at night? Hiss, Kazekage-sama, you agreed so easily during the day, so it was to temporarily stabilize him. However, the other party's strength is extremely strong, and we still have the Flying Thunder God technique to escape. They had mixed feelings about Garashi. On one hand they were grateful for his help, but on the other hand they were angry at his threats. Although their attitude had changed so quickly during the day, it was only because they had been threatened that they would take advantage of the situation. After all, compared to being threatened to send troops, taking the initiative to agree would at least give them face. Old Salted Fish Raza looked at them in shock. Shimizu Garashi, what were you guys thinking? Even if you want to die, don't drag me down with you. To prevent them from saying anything more shocking, Raza hurried to set the tone. Don't talk nonsense. Mr. Garashi is the benefactor of San Crypsis and an eternal friend of San Crypsis. This time, everyone was even more at a loss. You called us in the middle of the night just for this? After coughing twice, Raza straightened his posture and said, the reason I called you here is because of a letter, an apology letter from Woodleaf's elder Danzo? Apology letter? Everyone was puzzled. Did he feel that he wasn't worthy of Elder Chio, so he sent a letter to apologize? Raza's mouth twitched. This elder Danzo mentioned that Special Envoy Garashi actually arrived a day earlier, but he cured Woodleaf's poison ninja and rested for a night before leaving for San Crypsis. For this he sincerely apologized. Didn't you say that this elder Danzo is very strong? A jonin asked strangely. Why is his tone so humble? Another jonin was puzzled. Isn't it normal to save your own people first? You think so because Garashi's operation didn't have an accident. Raza squinted his eyes and said, but if Garashi came late and caused our ninja to die, how would he feel when he sees this letter? A jonin frowned. Although it won't lead to a conflict, it will leave a thorn in his heart. Raza nodded. And this is also an excuse for us to deny, to protest and refuse to pay. I understand. Zhong Liang suddenly realized something. If we protest, Elder Danzo can use the excuse of affecting the diplomatic relations between the two villages to suppress Shueisha Jonin. Hearing this, all the Jonin's eyes lit up. Woodleaf doesn't seem to be peaceful either. Sandrock frowned and asked. I heard that Elder Danzo is very insidious. There's no reason for him to give us a handle, right? Normally this is just an ordinary apology letter. Even if I take it out, no one will say anything. At most, they will think that he's old and not as tough as he used to be. Raza said with dread. But the fact is that Elder Danzo saw through my stinginess. No, I mean my thrifty character, and guessed that I would use this letter. It's a pity that he underestimated Garashi. Not only did he complete the mission perfectly, but he also helped us discover the truth behind the third Kazekage. Everyone nodded in agreement. The medical skills of the three suns and moons really made them dumbfounded. Zhong Liang asked, Kazekage-sama, what are you going to do next? Are you going to pretend that you didn't receive this letter? Raza laughed. How is that possible? Of course, I'm going to hint to Elder Danzo that we will officially protest afterwards. Zhong Liang was surprised. Wait, Kazekage-sama, didn't you say that Garashi Jonin is San Crypsis's best friend forever? Raza said righteously. I'm helping Garashi Jonin see the true face of that old thief Danzo. Garashi Jonin didn't forget to care about his marriage in San Crypsis. What a good person. How can I bear to see my friend being schemed against like this? Ebizo coldly explained. Even if he's an ally, a powerful Woodleaf is still not in the interest of San Crypsis. Let Shimizu Garashi, who represents the young faction, and Shimura Danzo, who represents the stubborn faction, fight with each other, then the position of San Crypsis will be more valuable. Everyone suddenly realized, but at the same time, they didn't forget to look at Raza with disdain. He still has the nerve to say that he's a good friend. Someone asked, Kazekage-sama, who do we support? It's not that whoever we support will win, but whoever can win we will support. Raza sighed and directly put the two sides on the table. Shimizu Garashi and Shimura Danzo, ask yourselves, then tell me, who will you choose? Everyone thought for a moment and quickly came to an answer. One is the sun at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and the other is the setting sun. No, even if it's the setting sun, it's still Sandame Naruto. Cricket Shimura Danzo is at most a small star, nothing more. Everyone reached a consensus and smiled at each other. Of course it's to sell Danzo. Chapter 181. Western Main Camp. An honest-looking ninja passed by the toilet and was attracted by a small note on a nearby tree. But before he could take a look, a ninja with a scar on his face jumped out. Hey, our Woodleaf is going to die. The honest-looking ninja was confused. Huh. The ninja put his arm around the ninja's shoulder. Brother, maybe you don't know yet. The backbone of our western camp, the wise and wise Danzo-sama, has fallen ill. Of course it's not surprising that you don't know. Danzo-sama specifically told the people around him not to talk about it, fearing that the morale of the army would be affected. But I accidentally discovered this secret, and I can't help but complain for Danzo-sama. Don't talk. Danzo-sama is devoted to the public, he doesn't get close to women, his body is strong, how could he suddenly fall ill? In fact, he was angered by that Shimizu Garashi. That kid relied on Naruto-sama's support and didn't put Danzo-sama in his eyes. Danzo-sama just reminded him to put the mission first, but that kid disregarded his seniority and insulted him. Danzo-sama was so angry that he vomited more than 10 kilograms of blood on the spot. More than 10 kilograms? Well, maybe I remembered wrong, but in short, it's a lot. Poor Danzo-sama worked so hard for the village, but now he's old and has to suffer like this. An enthusiastic ninja who didn't want to reveal his name passed by at this time. You think that's all? Danzo-sama has already reached an agreement with San Crypsis. Using this rescue operation as an excuse, San Crypsis officially sent troops to join the Rock Crypsis battlefield. Speaking of this, the ninja was filled with righteous indignation. But all of this was ruined by Shimizu Garashi. Such a person deserves to be called the Light of Woodleaf? The hero of Woodleaf? At this time, the ninja sighed helplessly. Wolf, so this is what you look like after taking off your mask. The two were dumbfounded. You're a leopard? The three laughed awkwardly and then went to find other passers-by. No one knew when it started, but such a trend had started in Woodleaf's camp. Shimizu Garashi's impulsive actions had led to the failure of Danzo's meticulous plan. It could even affect the entire situation on the Western Front. Under the influence of some people, this trend did not stop. Instead, it seemed to be getting more and more intense. When Garashi and San Crypsis Special Envoy Pakura came back, they saw many people pointing at them. I heard that Garashi didn't want to treat Danzo's hemorrhoids, which made Danzo so angry that he vomited 100 kilograms of blood. Why did I hear that the two of them fought over Naruto's favor? No, it was Danzo-sama who wanted to compete with Naruto-sama for Shimizu Garashi and was rejected. Hearing this, Garashi's eyebrows twitched. Was Danzo really that desperate? When he was ruthless, he would even blacken himself. However, Garashi had some guesses in his heart. Maybe someone saw that Danzo wanted to deal with him, so they deliberately led the rumors in another direction. After all, rumors can't be stopped. Instead of forcibly blocking it, it's better to cover it up with more vicious rumors. Seeing the strange look in Pakura's eyes, Garashi coughed twice. Danzo's mental state has been unstable. On one hand, it's the rumored old pervert, and on the other hand, it's the handsome young man who saved her. Pakura naturally made a judgment in an instant and nodded. It's really hard for you, Garashi. Just then, a few nurses ran over in a hurry. It's really Garashi-sama, you're back? Great. Garashi-sama, please save No-sama. I heard that she was transferred to a spy mission. How can you let a medical ninja do this kind of mission? Garashi's face was cold. I know, don't worry, I'll take care of everything. At the same time in the conference room, Danzo was sitting at the head of the table with a pale face, looking very weak. What do you think about the Hidden Rain's movements? His face was pale, half of it was fake and the other half was because he was angry with his subordinates. How can it be that he and Shimizu Garashi are competing for Hiruzen's favor? It should be Hiruzen who's competing for his favor? Danzo suddenly stopped this dangerous thought and listened carefully to the discussion. I think this is Hanzo the Salamander's usual trick to raise the price. There's no need to worry too much. The battlefield is not a casino. How can we gamble everyone's safety on such uncertain factors? Are we just going to sit back and watch the Hidden Rain grow? It's better to join forces with Rock Crypsis to destroy the Rain Country first. Don't be stupid, Rock Crypsis will only turn around and sell us out, and then let the Hidden Rain completely fall into their arms. The Rain Country has always been indecisive. As long as they realize that we are strong, they won't hesitate to join us. So, the key is still San Crypsis. Finally hearing what he wanted to hear, Danzo pretended to nod. Yes, I also think that the key to this war is San Crypsis's attitude. Akimichi Jonin was tangled. However, it's not easy to make San Crypsis give up their strategy. Aburame Jonin agreed. Yes, if anyone can make San Cripsus send troops, then he will be Woodleaf's hero. At this time Danzo sighed. In fact, the Kazekage-sama is also in a difficult position. He's young and can't convince the conservatives in the village. For this reason I had some private tacit understanding with him. Using this poisoning incident as a reward, I joined the battlefield. Speaking of this, Danzo's voice suddenly became louder. But all of this was ruined by one person. Thinking of the recent rumors in the camp, many jonins were secretly alerted. It turned out that Danzo was waiting for them. They didn't want to talk, but naturally some jonin who supported Danzo spoke up. What? Who dares to do this? Danzo's eyes were gloomy. Who else can it be? Of course, it's Woodleaf's hero who came from the other side. As soon as he came, he forcibly took Nanoyu's position, ignoring this old man's advice, ignoring the overall situation of the battlefield, just for his own reputation. He almost broke the alliance between Woodleaf and San Cripsus, and also made the original plan to send troops directly invalid. This is unforgivable. There was dead silence in the conference room, and many jonins frowned secretly. They don't think that Garashi's behavior is unforgivable, but if what Danzo said is true, then it is indeed a bit troublesome. The most important thing is that Garashi has only been on this battlefield for a short time, and his foundation is not strong enough, and they are afraid of Danzo's tyranny for a long time. On the conference table, Fugaku clenched and loosened his hands several times, and finally lowered his head sadly. I'm sorry. Just like before, they didn't speak, but naturally, others were willing to speak. Ugh, this kid is unreliable. It seems that he was praised too much on the other battlefield and lost himself. What's the use of saying this now? Let's think about how to fix it. Danzo knocked on the table. To fix the relationship, the first thing is to let Shimizu Garashi apologize to San Cripsus. Let this old man think of a way. He didn't want to use San Cripsus to kill Garashi. If he did that, Hiruzen would definitely come to kill him. He just wants to confirm the rumors that Garashi harmed the interests of the village in front of everyone, so that he can find an excuse to threaten him in the future. For the sake of Konoha, some sacrifices are inevitable. I don't think our hero should care about personal honor and disgrace. Chapter 182. Danzo's approach has indeed worked. If he wanted to hand Garashi over to San Cripsus and let Garashi die as an apology, the shinobi on the field naturally wouldn't agree. They can't just watch Danzo cut off his own hands and feet during this critical period of the war. But if it's just an apology, it doesn't seem to be unacceptable. After all, it's good for young people to suffer some setbacks. At this moment, a scream came from the outside. Garashi Jonin, you can't go in now, there's a Jonin meeting inside. It's okay, I'm also a Jonin, it's natural for me to participate in the meeting. But beside you, before her voice fell, Garashi and Pakura opened the door and walked in side by side. Seeing Garashi's idlers, Ryoma slammed the table and stood up. Shimizu Garashi, you're really getting more and more ridiculous, you actually dare to bring outsiders to a Jonin meeting. Special Envoy Pakura is not an outsider. Garashi smiled, or we'll soon be on the same side. Pakura? Many jonins were shocked. The Scorch released Pakura, who is known as the hero of San Cripsus. Seeing everyone's eyes on her, Pakura nodded gracefully, I'm here on behalf of San Cripsus to discuss the details of the formal cooperation. Cooperation? Everyone was a little confused. Didn't Danzo say that the negotiations had broken down? Ryoma quickly reacted. As expected of Danzo-sama, you can still promote cooperation in this situation. The rest of Danzo's supporters also flattered him. So this is also part of Danzo-sama's plan. Danzo-sama, who can make San Cripsus send troops, is undoubtedly the hero of Woodleaf. Danzo was a little confused. Raza didn't mention cooperation? Is it because I exempted them from the mission? Thinking of this, Danzo's spirit was lifted and he said proudly, I just did something insignificant, it's not worth mentioning, not worth mentioning. At this time, Pakura suddenly interrupted, this cooperation seems to have been facilitated from beginning to end by Garashi Jonin, right? The meeting room suddenly became silent. Why does it feel like the truth is different from what Danzo said? Danzo squinted his eyes and smiled, haha, what you see is actually just the surface, go back and ask your Kazekage-sama about the real situation. Pakura shook her head, before I came here, the Kazekage told me that he could persuade the village to participate in the war because of Garashi Jonin. As for you, Pakura pondered for a while, I'm sorry, but Kazekage-sama didn't even mention your name. Hearing this, many people couldn't help but laugh. So all of this is just your imagination, Elder Danzo. Danzo's face turned pale as he picked a lucky spectator. Uchiha Fugaku, is this funny? Fugaku shook his head again and again. I remember something happy, my son is 2 years old now. At this time, Pakura added, not only that, but the Kazekage-sama also specifically mentioned to me that the Sand Crypsis only trusts Garashi Jonin, so one of the conditions for us to officially participate in the war is that Garashi Jonin will be the commander of both sides. The meeting room was silent for a moment, and in the next moment, it exploded. Isn't this decision too hasty? Although Garashi Jonin is very good, being the commander of both sides is still not enough to convince the public, right? I think it's good. Didn't you say that the one who can facilitate the cooperation between the two sides is Woodleaf's hero? Garashi also knew that Raza's proposal was actually not good. He wanted to further provoke the confrontation between him and Danzo. However, he didn't care. Just like this time, will Danzo give up if he doesn't do anything? There's only 1,000 days of being a thief. How can there be 1,000 days of guarding against a thief? Since he can't avoid it, he will take the initiative in his own hands. Therefore, instead of refusing, Garashi looked at Danzo with a smile. For Woodleaf, some sacrifices are inevitable. I think our elder Danzo shouldn't care about personal power, right? Danzo slammed the table and asked in disbelief. What did you say? You want me to step aside? Seeing Garashi trying to seize power as soon as he came up, all the Jonin's eyes widened. Too ferocious, this is the dark shinobi of the shinobi world. The reason why they are afraid of Danzo is not only because of his strength, but also because Danzo has never followed the rules. No matter in which world, people who don't follow the rules will be feared, because this kind of person's behavior can't be judged by common sense. Garashi sighed. In fact, I don't have much interest in the position of commander of the Sand Crypsis Alliance, but when I heard Elder Danzo's words outside, I suddenly realized. For the sake of Konoha, some sacrifices are inevitable, so I have to sacrifice my precious personal time. Danzo's chest heaved up and down, as if he was going to explode in the next moment. So angry. This kid actually used his words to block his mouth. As Danzo's #1 follower, Ryoma hurriedly said, Shimizu Garashi, you are too ignorant. The Kazekage asked you to be the commander, and you still know that you are Woodleaf's. Shut up, are you trying to sow discord and destroy the cooperation between the two sides? Garashi said righteously. Or are you actually a spy paid by Rock Crypsis? Uranian Dragon Horse's chest was filled with depression. So angry. Wasn't destroying the cooperation an excuse they used before? This little rascal was a fast learner. Looking at the sullen faces of Danzo and his followers, Fugaku felt refreshed as if he was drinking ice water in June. It turns out that this Danzo who has been suppressing the Uchiha is nothing more than this. A bold idea arose in Fugaku's mind, but it was quickly denied by himself. Garashi can be so domineering, but he can't. After all, Garashi has the support of most of Woodleaf, while he only has the Uchiha behind him. Continue to endure, it will get better. At this time Danzo also calmed down from his rage. For Woodleaf, of course I will not be stingy with the power in my hands, but I want to test whether you have the capacity to lead Woodleaf forward. Otherwise, rashly handing over power will only put Woodleaf in danger. Seeing Danzo kick the ball back to the other, Ryoma and the others couldn't help but praise him. As expected of Danzo-sama, he easily found a reason to counter the other party. Then how would you like to test me, Elder Danzo? Shushi asked with a gentle smile. Danzo smiled a few times. The simplest way, of course, is to test my strength as the commander of the Allied forces. If I am easily defeated by Rock Crypsis, it will damage the morale of the Allied forces. Chapter 183. A Test of Strength? All the Jonins were faintly excited. As the disciple of the second Naruto and the close friend of the third Naruto, Danzo's strength is beyond doubt. And Garashi, as a famous hero on another battlefield, even eliminated the 7 legendary swordsmen of the shinobi world. His strength is absolutely not to be underestimated. It will be very interesting to see these two fight. They are not worried about the two getting injured. One is experienced and the other has the flying thunder god. No matter how they think about it, it shouldn't be a big problem. Everyone came to a remote and empty canyon. For so many years, you are the first one who dared to take the initiative to attack this old man. Standing opposite, Danzo said in a strange tone. For the sake of Woodleaf, I can only offend you. Garashi said apologetically. Hearing Garashi saying for the sake of Woodleaf, Danzo felt sick in his heart. This was his catchphrase. Thinking of this, Danzo's heart was filled with anger. and he directly spat out a vacuum wave. Garashi didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly dodged to the side. Danzo's wind release was able to break Susanu's defense. Although it was done with the help of a summoned beast, it was still amazing enough. The wind blade cut through the ground like tofu, cutting through a whole rock, including the ground where Garashi was standing. The cut monolith fell down the canyon. Shushi stomped hard on the missing rock and used the recoil to jump to the other side of the canyon. However, this time Danzo was faster. Surrounded by the blue chakra, he arrived at the other side of the canyon in advance and launched a kunai attack. But Garashi's reaction wasn't slow either, and the moment he landed, he raised his kunai to block. Clang. Although Danzo's strength wasn't as good as Garashi's, with the help of his speed, he was able to fight equally with Garashi. While the two sides were in a deadlock, Garashi suddenly noticed a black mark on his body. Seal of the Self-Karma Curse. Caught you. Danzo's eyes flashed with joy. He didn't expect this kid to be so careless. But just as he was about to strike, he realized that he couldn't move his body either. Seal, all lives equal. Due to the concealment of a part of the sealing technique, Garashi had set up a seal on his body in advance to prevent a sneak attack. It allowed the caster's chakra to be connected to the caster's body to achieve the same sealing effect. This could be considered as some inspiration he had gained from the Cthulhuism Society's techniques. Damn it. Why is this kid's sealing technique so strange? Helpless, Danzo had no choice but to release the seal. Then he quickly distanced himself from Garashi. Since the sealing technique didn't work, he naturally wouldn't choose to continue fighting Garashi in close combat. His speed is so fast. Garashi didn't care about Danzo's Fuinjutsu, but he was surprised. Is this still the same old Danzo? It seems that the arm in the manga is really a big burden on his body. Garashi secretly pondered. Danzo's speed in the chakra mode was not inferior to his sage mode. Of course, sage mode didn't just increase speed. Facing Danzo in his heyday, Shushi also put aside his previous impression of him and directly entered the one-time sage mode. How can I enter sage mode so quickly? Danzo was quite confused. It had not been long since Shushi learned this skill, and it was difficult to transmit information remotely. It was impossible for him to describe all the details of the battle, so he really did not know why this was happening. Although he had some doubts, Danzo didn't dwell on it. He quickly formed hand seals and spat out a strong hurricane from his mouth. Wind release, True Void Jade. Like a machine gun, the True Void Jade pierced the air and shot towards Garashi. Wind release, Thousand Face Wind. Garashi directly used wind release to counterattack. Thousands of small wind blades formed a gust of wind to meet the opponent. The two gusts of wind converged together and even the weather changed. The dark clouds that were originally hanging in the sky were blown away, and a burst of terrifying power surged out in all directions. In this gust of wind that made people unable to open their eyes, Garashi rushed forward. His heavy punches compressed the air in front of him and blasted it out. Like a mobile battery, every punch was heavy firepower suppression. When it fell on the hard rock, a small crater appeared in an instant. However, Danzo's shriveled body displayed a flexible speed that was completely inconsistent with his image. While easily dodging, he didn't forget to spit out a hurricane to counterattack. One strength suppression, the other's speed cutting. The staggered aftermath of the collision raged on the surrounding ground. In just a few minutes, the hard ground was crisscrossed with narrow gullies. Ninjutsu, Taijutsu, Fuinjutsu? Are these two monsters? It's hard enough for me to specialize in one, but they don't even have a weak point. I don't understand the Fuinjutsu competition, but in Ninjutsu, Danzo is stronger, and in Taijutsu, Garashi is stronger. It's not surprising that Danzo has this kind of strength, but Garashi has grown to this point in just 2 years. It's really terrifying. Everyone's impression of Shueisha's strength was still stuck in the rumors, and they couldn't believe it. In their opinion, Shueisha should have relied on the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to contend with Danzo, and finally managed to draw. But so far, Garashi hasn't even used Flying Thunder God, and he's already able to fight back and forth with Danzo. They simply couldn't believe their eyes. On the field, the battle was still ongoing. After roughly understanding Danzo's strength, Garashi didn't hold back. He took out a shuriken from his tool bag and threw it at Danzo. This old man has been waiting for you. Summoning Jutsu, Nightmare Taper. Danzo summoned the Nightmare Taper as fast as he could and then issued an order. Blow these shurikens away with maximum power, don't let any of them get close to this old man. In the next moment, a gust of wind rose. The wind raged in the canyon, and before the shurikens could get close, they were blown away. Haha, Flying Thunder God is a technique developed by Naidame Naruto. This old man knows it better than you. Before he could finish his words, Garashi suddenly appeared in front of him and sent him flying. How is this possible? Danzo, who was flying upside down in the air, couldn't believe his eyes. But before he could figure out what was going on, Garashi appeared above him like a shadow, lifting his right leg high and chopping down like a sharp axe. Danzo could only cross his hands in front of his body to block the attack, and then a huge force hit him, and then he slammed into the ground like a cannonball. Boom. The earth trembled violently and dust flew everywhere. Garashi teleported into the dust again, but this time he was blocked by Danzo, and then he was forced back by a gust of wind. While he was forced back, the surrounding dust was blown away by the wind, allowing everyone to see the situation in the field. A huge pit appeared in the ground like a basin, and Danzo was coughing up blood weakly. Chapter 184. So powerful, even Danzo isn't Garashi's opponent. This kind of battle, are they really Jonins? But among these comments, there were some discordant voices. Too bad, doesn't this Shimizu Garashi know how to respect his seniors? Yes, obviously Danzo-sama has been lenient, but he's still pushing him step by step. It's really outrageous. Hearing the discussion around him, Garashi frowned slightly. Indeed, he seems to have ignored Danzo's age. If he really injured Danzo, he would have to kneel on the ground and beg him not to die. I know. Danzo threw away the kunai in his hand and looked at Garashi with fear in his eyes. When I first used the kunai in close combat, I set a seal on you, and you also left me the Flying Thunder God Jutsu. This kid is too patient. Obviously he already set a backup plan, but he waited until he was the most careless to use it. Garashi smiled elegantly. Remember to return the gift when you give it to me, it's polite. Danzo's eyes were gloomy. Is he mocking him for not being polite? Don't think you've won. Wind release, vacuum ripple. This hurricane was composed of countless small wind blades, blowing across the sky and cutting the dust in the air. Earth release, earth wall. Garashi finished the hand seals in 1 second and slapped the ground. The ground instantly bulged into a stone wall, blocking the path of the hurricane. The stone wall blocked for a moment, but it was soon destroyed by the hurricane and turned into dust. However, Garashi took advantage of the fact that the earth wall blocked his view and used earth diving jutsu to sneak to Danzo's crotch. Woodleaf's secret body jutsu, Millennium Kill. Hearing Garashi deliberately shouted the name of the technique, Danzo instinctively tightened his chrysanthemum. If he was injured by this technique, what dignity would he have left as the commander of the battlefield? Danzo subconsciously poked the air with his backhand. Damn it, I was fooled. Danzo suddenly reacted, but it was too late. When he turned around, he saw Garashi holding a kunai and cutting towards him. Danzo shrank his head and let Garashi shave his head. This strong hairstyle coupled with Danzo's cold and serious face made many of the onlookers laugh out loud again. Although he didn't know what they were laughing at, the cool touch on his head made Danzo feel ashamed. Under normal circumstances, with his combat experience, he wouldn't be fooled, but this kid didn't play by the rules. How could he use such a despicable move like Millennium Kill to trick an old ninja into sneak attacking him? Garashi was also somewhat helpless. At this time, Danzo could be said to be at the peak of his life. He was very strong in all aspects and there were almost no obvious weaknesses. Of course, even if that was the case, it wasn't that he was completely helpless. However, the problem was that this was only a test, and not a battle to the death. If he didn't go all out, not to mention winning against Danzo, it would be difficult to even secure a draw. And the result of a draw would be easy for Danzo to take advantage of. After all, he couldn't even beat Danzo, who was holding back most of his strength. But if he goes all out, he can't guarantee his strength. If he injures or cripples Danzo, it will inevitably become an excuse for Ryoma and the others to accuse him of being ruthless to his own people. It can be said that from the beginning, this wasn't an equal battle. So, I must win this battle without seriously injuring Danzo, which means that I have to take advantage of his weakness. However, there is only one chance and before I use it, I have to change his mentality. Seeing Danzo's gloomy face, Garashi said while dodging, "By the way, Danzo-san, there is something I forgot to tell you. In order to strengthen the alliance between Woodleaf and Sand Crypsis, I and Kazekage-sama have discussed the marriage between the two sides. On the Woodleaf side you will be the one and on the Sand Crypsis side Chiyo Elder. For the sake of Konoha, some sacrifices are inevitable. Besides, Chiyo Elder was called the Flower of Shinobi when she was young, so in comparison, it's actually Chiyo Elder who is sacrificing herself." Hearing Garashi's words, Danzo felt that his mentality was about to explode. What does this kid mean? Is he mocking me for being ugly? Danzo was also famous for his hands? No, that's not the main point. Bastard. Do you know what you were talking about? Garashi innocently said, I know, I'm just concerned about you. Danzo angrily said, you don't need to worry about this old man's affairs. How can that be? You are my respected senpai. Garashi was suddenly shocked and looked at Danzo with horror in his eyes. Is that rumor true? Although he knew that Garashi didn't have good intentions, Danzo couldn't help but ask, what rumor? Garashi lowered his voice and said, it's the rumor that you are eager to have some kind of relationship with Naruto, Sama. No wonder Naruto, Sama gave birth to Asuma when he was 42 years old, it turned out to be to dispel your fantasy. Danzo almost vomited blood, trembling with anger. Don't confuse me with that old pervert, he's just a pervert. No, what do you mean this old man is eager to have some kind of relationship with him? Now. Garashi printed hand seals in a second. Genjutsu, mind reflection. His vision suddenly turned into a fog, but Danzo didn't panic. Instead, he calmed down from his manic state. Genjutsu? So this is your purpose for provoking me? Haha, ridiculous. Danzo didn't think much of it, he wasn't a weak-minded ninja. It's just a genjutsu, he can break it in an instant. But at this moment he saw the scene in the illusion. That was the memory that left the deepest impression on him. Surrounded by the elite forces of Gold Horn and Silver Horn, they proposed that someone be the bait. Seeing this, Danzo subconsciously said, I'll be the bait. Suddenly, everyone looked at him in disbelief. Danzo didn't care about other people's eyes, he just looked at the shocked Hiruzen with pride in his heart. This time it's finally this old man's turn to be Naruto. Why did I say this old man? Just as Danzo was thinking this, he suddenly heard Night-Aim say, Okay Danzo, you will be the bait, we withdraw. Danzo, Sigma, degree, no. In the outside world, Danzo screamed in despair. Danzo-san, wake up. Pulled back to reality by Garashi's voice, Danzo opened his eyes in a daze and saw Garashi with an apologetic face holding a kunai to his neck. Around him, everyone was looking at him strangely and whispering. Is Danzo-san's heart so fragile? Listening to that voice, I feel like he's going to cry. Yeah, it sounds so sad. Garashi is too gentle. In order to save Danzo-san's face, he deliberately used genjutsu after fighting for so long. Hearing these voices, Danzo was so angry that he vomited blood and fainted. Chapter 185. In Danzo's view, fainting seems to be the best way to solve the current situation. Unfortunately, with Garashi here, he couldn't faint even if he wanted to. Seeing Danzo vomiting blood and fainting, Garashi was even more anxious than Ryoma and the others. He immediately used his Divine Palm technique, and then used several medical ninjutsu on Danzo. It was equivalent to giving him a full set of physical examination and rehabilitation treatment. Then, Danzo's complexion recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye, and even became ruddy. This time he had no choice but to wake up. With a light cough, Danzo woke up from his coma. Seeing this, Garashi explained. Danzo-san, your body is a little weak, but don't worry, I have cured you. Danzo gritted his teeth. Then I really have to thank you. Garashi said with a look of concern. I have always been very concerned about my subordinates. Subordinate? Danzo obviously didn't understand his own identity, and it took a while for him to react. You, Garashi comforted him. Don't worry, it's only in name, you are a senpai, how can I command you? Hearing Garashi's words, Danzo felt a little better. However, Shushi was the disciple of Hiruzen's disciple, and he was now Shushi's subordinate. In that case he was 2 generations younger than Hiruzen. Thinking of this, Danzo wanted to faint again. Garashi turned around and looked at everyone. The problem has been solved perfectly, let's go back and start the meeting again. How is it a perfect solution? It's obviously a perfect solution to the person who raised the problem. Everyone couldn't help but feel shocked. Such a young commander of the Allied forces, even if you look at the history of the ninja world, there has never been such a person. But even they didn't realize it, they were just shocked, but no one felt that it was unreasonable. Not to mention Garashi's contributions and achievements in the Eastern camp. Just in a few days he cured the poison ninja, facilitated the sand crypsis, and even defeated Danzo. Whether it is strength or ability, he is too outstanding. With complicated and indescribable feelings, everyone returned to the conference room and sat back in their seats. Danzo also subconsciously returned to the main seat, and Garashi's kind reminder came from the side. Elder Danzo, Please move to the side to familiarize yourself with your position. Danzo wanted to attack immediately, but when he saw Garashi's kind eyes, he felt a little guilty. This little bastard must be trying to trick this old man again. Humph, this old man won't be fooled. Thinking of this, Danzo moved away with a wooden face. This scene caused everyone to click their tongues in wonder. Elder Danzo, who had always been tough and indifferent, actually gave in front of a junior. Of course, they knew that this was only temporary. With Elder Danzo's personality, there's no way he'll let this go. Sitting in the main seat, Garashi quickly entered the zone. Seniors, please explain the current situation in detail. Seeing that Garashi did not pursue the matter, everyone secretly heaved a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that the two of them would fight again. Thinking of this, everyone hurriedly spoke. At present, Rock Crypsis has sent 16,000 ninjas, our main force has 11,000, and various special forces have 2,000. As for the small countries, Rock Crypsis has 1,700, and our side has 3,100. It seems that the number of troops is more than 2 years ago, but Garashi knows that this is the result of squeezing out the potential of the war. Pakura timely spoke. Sand Crypsis can't compare to Woodleaf and Rock Crypsis. We can send at most 6,000 people. However, everyone was excited when they heard this. 6,000 people? That's great. That's enough. It seems that we will win this war. The quality of the ninjas of the 5 great villages is not comparable to the small villages. The 6,000 people of Sand Crypsis are even more important than the 20,000 people of the small countries. At this time, Pakura added. Before Sand Crypsis officially joined the war, Hidden Rain has invaded our borders many times. After joining the war, they are likely to be afraid of our retaliation and choose to side with Rock Crypsis. Hearing Pakura's words, the ninjas on the field frowned. The Rain Country is bordered by 6 countries at the same time, including the Fire Country, Earth Country, and Wind Country. After years of war, the domestic ninjas have suffered heavy losses, but at the same time, the combat strength of the domestic ninjas has greatly increased. Coupled with Hanzo's momentum, there are even signs of them becoming the 6th great ninja village. Of course, if there is a choice between Hidden Rain and Sand Crypsis, there is no doubt that Sand Crypsis will be the first choice. The so-called 6th great ninja village is just the idea of those small ninja villages. In the eyes of the 5 great ninja villages, the gap between the top 5 and the 6th is essential. Therefore, after thinking for a while, they comforted their allies. Pakura-sama, don't worry, Hidden Rain won't change anything. Moreover, Hidden Rain has always been indecisive, they may not really side with Rock Crypsis. Garashi said. If we can see it, Rock Crypsis can also see it. In this case they are likely to pay a huge price to win over Hidden Rain. Fugaku nodded. Anoki's words are indeed that bold. Akimichi Chuza hesitated. Then should we also win over Hidden Rain? As soon as his voice fell, someone objected. Rock Crypsis has no way out, they will try their best to make promises, but we can't, the village won't agree to pay a huge price to win over a dispensable Hidden Rain. Akimichi Chuza insisted. We have sacrificed enough, why can't we solve the problem with money? The opposing Jonin also insisted. Of course, it's not a problem if it can be solved with money, but the problem is that the village has no money. Seeing that they were quarreling, Shushi interrupted, let's make some preparations. We can win them over, but the price we have to pay must be within our control. At the same time, we must also be prepared to deal with the Rain Village's participation in the war. Aburaim slightly pulled his collar and said in a low voice, the Rain Village itself is nothing to be afraid of. What's terrible is that demigod of the shinobi world. With the power of his poisonous fog, he can be an army on the battlefield. Everyone was silent. Hanzo the Salamander, this is a name that can't be ignored. In the last Shinobi World War, he defeated Woodleaf's army and the young Sannin by himself, and even just because he survived and was given a name, he made the Sannin famous in the Shinobi world. From this, one could see just how powerful he was. In this silent atmosphere, Garashi said, if he really stands opposite us, let me and Chio-senpai of Sand Crypsis deal with him. Naturally, he won't underestimate the other party. In addition to his poison, Hanzo's strength is also very strong, his taijutsu can defeat Mifune of the Land of Iron, and his water release is even rated as unsurpassable. Therefore, a strong helper is necessary. Chapter 186. In Sage Mode, it's hard to find someone with a higher resistance to poison than Garashi. As for Chio, she's a poison expert, and her puppets are also immune to poison. Just from this point alone, she's definitely the most suitable helper to deal with Hanzo. But the problem is that the people in the room don't know this. Garashi, even if you defeat him. Fugaku vaguely skipped over someone's name. Hanzo the Salamander is still a super difficult and powerful character to deal with. Choza also had a dignified expression. The Salamander's poison mist is too strong, the average person can't even use half of their strength in front of him. Pakura had a strange look on her face. She wanted to say that the poison mist is useless against Garashi, but she was worried about leaking information about Garashi, so she could only vaguely say, if it's Garashi and Elder Chio, then there should be no problem. But that's Hanzo the Salamander. Oh, there should be no problem, you have to have confidence in Garashi. The ninjas in the room were surprised. If it was just Garashi alone, they might suspect that this is a conspiracy by San Crypsis to encourage Garashi to take risks. But even San Crypsis Chio is also in the room. This can only mean that San Crypsis has extraordinary confidence in Garashi. It seems that the reason why the Sand Village agreed to send troops this time was not only because Shushi saved their people, but during this period of time, something very important must have happened, and Shushi must have played a vital role in this change. Thinking of this, they looked at their new commander with even more respect. Seeing that everyone was silent, Garashi smiled and said, "That's all for the time being. If there are any changes in the future, we'll talk about it later." The meeting ended. After everyone left, Garashi smiled and looked to the side. "Elder Danzo, there's something I forgot to remind you." Hearing these familiar words, Danzo subconsciously refused. "This old man will never go on a blind date." "Don't worry, it's not that," Shueisha said with a smile on his face. "Yonai-senpai is now my subordinate, so don't overstep your boundaries, Danzo-san. Otherwise it will be very troublesome for me." This bastard. Danzo's heart was filled with anger, but he suddenly understood. No wonder this kid has been targeting me today. He was warning me not to attack his people. He is much more decisive than Hiruzen. Danzo's eyes were filled with fear. In the past he didn't think that he would be so close to death, but he didn't expect that he would be so close to being killed by Shueisha. Not only had his plan failed, but he had also lost all his face and authority. Looking at Garashi's resolute and sharp eyes, he had no doubt that if he continued to have designs on the people around Garashi, the next knife that reached out would not be to cut off his hand that had crossed the line. When he thought of this, some of his original dark thoughts quietly dissipated. This old man is definitely not afraid. This is just a strategic show of weakness. I will wait until later to find an opportunity to take revenge. Endure. Sand Crypsis Village. After receiving the news from Pakura, the Sand Crypsis Jonins couldn't believe it. Garashi Jonin actually won? And he won so cleanly. That Elder Danzo really couldn't play with him. Kazekage-sama is far-sighted. He could see at a glance that the winner would be Garashi Jonin. Raza's expression was strange. He was optimistic about Garashi's future, but more importantly, he was optimistic about Garashi's future. He really didn't think that Elder Danzo would lose so thoroughly in the first round. As the Kazekage, of course I can see further than you. Raza lightly nodded. After flattering for a while, one of the Jonins said, "Kazekage-sama, do we really have to listen to the command of Garashi Jonin? Although he is indeed very powerful, he is still one of Woodleaf's people." They originally wanted to provoke the confrontation between Garashi and Danzo so that the position of Sand Crypsis would be more valuable. But who would have thought that Garashi would be so fierce that Danzo would be forced into a corner? What's even more unexpected is that Shimura Danzo, who is famous in the shinobi world, is so useless. As a result, they were in a difficult position. Raza slightly shook his head. "Don't worry, Garashi Jonin is different from Danzo. He won't be so short-sighted as to suppress his allies before the war is over." Hearing Raza's words, everyone was a little relieved. "What worries me is Rock Crypsis's response." Raza changed the topic. "They should be able to see that our position is not so firm. If they are ruthless, they might use us as a breakthrough point and use heavy losses to scare us away." Hearing this, everyone's face suddenly changed. "What? Then aren't we blocking the disaster for Woodleaf?" "No, we absolutely can't let them succeed." Raza slightly nodded. "This is just my guess. In short, let's pay more attention and focus on protecting ourselves." Rock Crypsis Village. Sand Crypsis has officially sent troops, and the leader of the coalition is still that 12 or 13 years old kid. Kitsuchi was shocked when he heard the news. "Are they all crazy?" Magic Leech said excitedly. "It seems that they are already anxious. Even if they send troops, there is nothing to be afraid of." Anoki shook his head. "Danzo and the others couldn't do it in 2 years. but he went to the Sand Crypsis and succeeded. Can such a person be underestimated? Kitsuchi calmed down from the shock. Such a person should not be underestimated. No, it should be said that no matter how much we pay attention to him, it is not enough. They have also fought with Danzo for 2 years. Naturally, they know how difficult the other party is. Such a person can defeat Danzo and even make him hand over his power. No matter how you look at it, such a person is not simple. Magic Leech asked, Sachikage-sama, then what should we do next? Anoki's expression was dignified. First of all, Hanzo the Salamander, tell him that I agree to those conditions. Magic Leech hurriedly said, Hidden Rain is simply asking for too much. Anoki said indifferently. People who are not willing to give up anything will not get anything. Hearing what he said, Magic Leech could only say angrily, I hope they won't die from their own greed. Anoki pondered for a moment and said, try to gather those mercenaries and wandering ninjas to participate in the war. Kitsuchi hesitated. Those guys have always been greedy for money. If the situation is not good, they may run away or even betray us. Then use money to smash them, make them feel heartache even if they run away or betray us. Hearing his father's decisive tone, Kitsuchi nodded heavily and said, I understand. After thinking for a moment, Anoki added, by the way, ask Daimyo-sama to borrow his guards and protectors. Forget it, I will go myself. In this regard, everyone naturally has no objection. Anoki took a deep breath. Also, contact Rashi and tell him that I can admit defeat and apologize to him. Kitsuchi and the other jonins were shocked. Father, Sachikage-sama, you. Anoki's expression remained unchanged. Go, compared with the interests of the village, my honor and disgrace are nothing. Chapter 187. 2 days later in the Rain Village. Shimizu Garashi? Hanzo said in a dull voice. He defeated Shimura Danzo, and even became the commander of the joint army of the 2 villages. It's been a long time since I've seen such a dazzling genius. Hanzo-sama, what should we do? The jonins looked at Hanzo with worship in their eyes. Unlike the other villages, the Hidden Rain Village's jonin meeting was just a decoration. All the affairs of the village were decided by Hanzo. However, not only did they not resist, they even gladly endured it. The land of rain is bordered by the land of fire, the land of earth, and the land of wind at the same time. Being able to grow up in such a harsh environment, and even showing signs of becoming the 6th great shinobi village, it can be said that it's all thanks to Hanzo. Demigod is just a respectful title for him in other villages, but in the Rain Village his title is God. At this moment, God said, I wanted to wait for them to continue fighting, but now it seems that we have to make a decision. What are the conditions they offered? A Hidden Rain jonin said, the conditions given by Woodleaf are the same as before, there's not much change, but Rock Crypsis not only agreed to our request, but also agreed to help us replace Sand Crypsis after defeating the alliance of Woodleaf and Sand Crypsis, becoming one of the 5 great villages of the shinobi world. As his voice fell, the breathing of everyone in the room quickened. Their ambition is to become the 6th great village of the shinobi world, replacing Sand Crypsis as one of the 5 great villages of the shinobi world. This is something they didn't even dare to think about, but now Rock Crypsis took the initiative to put it on the table. Hanzo-sama, agree to them, so that our dreams can come true. Yes, anyway we offended Sand Crypsis. Instead of being punished afterwards, it's better to make a decision now. But in these restless voices, there were also voices of opposition. Rock Crypsis even put forward such conditions, doesn't it mean that even they are not optimistic about their future? Although the Rock Crypsis offer is very tempting, we might lose ourselves if we're not careful. While the 2 sides were arguing, they both looked at Hanzo. Their opinions were only for reference. Only God could make the decision. Hanzo raised his head and coldly said, New 5 great countries? It was just a nice way to put it. If you're not strong enough, no matter how much support you have, it's useless. In the end, you might even become their puppet. Everyone nodded thoughtfully. Then shall we choose Woodleaf? However, Hanzo shook his head. Rock Crypsis is unreliable, but I don't trust Woodleaf even more. Ah? Why is that? Hanzo didn't directly explain but turned to another topic. What do you think of the sudden emergence of an organization called Akatsuki? Hearing Hanzo mention Akatsuki, all the Rain jonins were somewhat confused. Is there such an organization? I seem to have heard of it. I heard that it was established by a few kids, an organization dedicated to the peace of the shinobi world. Haha, who still believes in this kind of thing? It's really stupid. Don't underestimate them. When I heard about this organization, I heard that they had already recruited a lot of people. Hanzo said, although it's childish, those 3 kids aren't simple. I sent people to follow them, but they all failed without exception. After failing several times in a row, they couldn't help but attack. As a result. Speaking of this, even Hanzo's eyes showed a hint of shock. After the battle broke out, they didn't even last half a minute. How is that possible? The Jonins on the field couldn't believe it. Hanzo has always been cautious, and those who can be sent out to perform tasks by him are definitely not weak. How can such an elite ninja be defeated in such a short time, and at the hands of a few kids? After the shock, some people realized that something was wrong. Hanzo-sama, since they failed, how did you know this information? Hanzo had a strange look in his eyes. Of course it was them who told me. After they were defeated, those brats talked to them about the concept of peace and then let them go. What? They took the initiative to let the enemy go. The Jonins almost doubted their life. How can such naive ninjas live until now? Hanzo gently rubbed his fingers. However, they did bring back some interesting information. Those 3 brats are a group of 2 boys and 1 girl. Their talent is outstanding, but the ninjutsu they use is completely different from the mainstream ninjutsu of our Rain country. What does this feature make you think of? A Jonin asked tentatively. Is it the 3 kids taught by Woodleaf's Jiraiya? As soon as his voice fell, the rest of the people shouted excitedly. Impossible, didn't they die when we went to invite them? Could it be a native genius of our Rain country? They were so excited not for no reason. In their view, being invited by Hanzo-sama is the honor of every citizen of the Rain country. Faking death is absolutely a blasphemy and betrayal to the Rain country. Hanzo's face was gloomy. Where did so many geniuses come from in this world? 1 is fine, but 3? Do you think I'm stupid? With his control of the Rain country, how could he not discover the existence of Jiraiya in 3 years? In fact, he thought that with his reputation in the Rain country, it would be too easy for him to subdue those 3 kids, so he just let them do as they please and acted as if he didn't know the existence of Jiraiya. After all, although his strength is far stronger than Jiraiya at that time, but in terms of background and teaching, he can't compare with Jiraiya, who is the direct disciple of the 3rd generation Naruto. Unfortunately, when he sent his men to invite them, he only got the news that those 3 kids were dead. At that time he felt sorry for them, but now it seems that those 3 kids were playing with him. They didn't want to be my men, they even faked death to escape, and now they came out to establish some Akatsuki organization. Hanzo said in a low voice. I have to suspect that their appearance is a nail deliberately buried by Woodleaf. A nail that will gradually invade and control the Rain country. Hearing this, all the Jonins cursed loudly. Damn it, Woodleaf dares to do this. Especially that Jiraiya Hanzo-sama gave them a way out, but he still dares to scheme against us. Hanzo raised his hand, and the room quickly became quiet. In short, first send someone to contact Rock Crypsis and then keep an eye on the Akatsuki. If they are really Woodleaf spies, this time they won't be quiet. Chapter 188. In the temporary hospital there was a burst of cheers. Great, No-sama doesn't need to leave anymore. I told you, Garashi-sama is the most reliable. I'll always like Garashi-sama. At the beginning, when they knew that Nanoyu gave up the position of the hospital director to Garashi, many of the new nurses were angry, thinking that it was really like the rumors said, that Garashi was the one who replaced the director. But now there was only one thought in their mind. That is, Garashi-sama is too reliable. For a former medical director, he can fight against Elder Danzo and even win. His sense of security is too strong. Garashi, I don't know how to thank you. Nanoyu sighed in her heart. She never thought that it was Garashi, who she watched grow up, who helped her get rid of the nightmare. If you want to say thank you, it should be me. If it was someone else, they wouldn't let a child like me stay in the hospital. Garashi sincerely thanked her. If he didn't stay in the Woodleaf hospital, many of his plans wouldn't have been able to be carried out. Just because of this? Nanoyu couldn't help but laugh, and at the same time she couldn't help but sigh in her heart. This kind of thing is really wonderful. A moment of kindness can change a person's life. Even if we don't talk about the past. Garashi looked at Nanoyu with a subtle expression. This time the person who took the risk to use rumors to help me avoid the risk should be you, Nanoyu-sama, right? Nanoyu looked a little embarrassed. If I knew that you were prepared, Garashi, I wouldn't have needed to do this. No matter what, her scandals had a certain negative effect. Of course not, Nanoyu-sama, you helped me a lot. Garashi secretly sighed. As expected of the former elite of the route, the walking witch, she was too sensitive to these rumors, and helped him to fill in the loopholes. At that time, the attitude of those jonins towards him was ambiguous, and it may have been the effect of these rumors. If most of the jonins were on Danzo's side at that time, then the effect of his pressure would be greatly reduced. That's good. I was worried that it would cause trouble for you. Of course not. I'm not that easily influenced. Just as the two of them were talking, sounds of admiration and envy came from the outside world. Is this the legendary ninja sword of Kirin? Will this saber explode when it hits someone? Was too dazzling. Can you lend it to me to play with? Can you tell me what it's like to be removed from the 7 legendary swordsmen? Hearing these voices, Garashi smiled and said, looks like Shui Mu and the others have arrived. I'll go and welcome them. In the outside world, Asma, who was surrounded by people, waved his hand and smiled. Actually, there's nothing much to see. It's just a saber that can explode. For me, finding a large saber and tying a few explosive talismans on it will have the same effect. Get rid of the 7 legendary swordsmen? After all, they died so quickly that I didn't even have time to be nervous. Hey, don't go, I haven't finished. I haven't finished yet. However, the crowd couldn't be bothered with him, and they all headed in another direction. Lord Garashi. Commander-in-Chief. Oh, Garashi is really my lifelong enemy. Asma sighed and suddenly realized that something was wrong. Commander-in-Chief. The ninja next to him joked, then your lifelong enemy is really incompetent. You don't even know that Garashi-sama is now the Commander-in-Chief of the Western Front. No, he's now the Commander-in-Chief of the Woodleaf Sand Crypsis Alliance. Asma was in a trance. How many days has it been? Why do I feel like the whole world has changed? The ninja next to him added, by the way, what's your current position as Garashi-sama's lifelong enemy? Vice Captain of the Special Operations Team of the 7th Brigade on the Eastern Front. Asma became less and less confident as he spoke, and in the end, his voice was almost like the buzzing of a mosquito. Guy, who was a beat slower, reacted at this time and excitedly said, that's amazing, you're indeed Garashi-senpai. Mizuki glanced at him and said, what's the fuss about this kind of thing? In the eyes of a fanatic like him, it's normal for Garashi to become the Commander-in-Chief of the Shinobi World Alliance. This time, Choza, who was watching the show from the side, was puzzled. This kind of thing, don't you want to verify it? Guy was confused. Verify what? Verify that Asma is Senpai's lifelong enemy? Choza's mouth twitched. Don't you think it's strange for such a young battlefield commander? Moreover, Garashi has only been on the Western Front for a few days. Guy laughed loudly. What's so strange about that? That's Garashi-senpai. Mizuki coldly said, the prejudice of a mediocre person. Even Asma, who was sighing that he was born at the wrong time, said, it's unreasonable to judge Garashi by the standard of ordinary people. Well, ordinary geniuses. Not only the 3 of them but the reaction of the entire team was the same. Seeing all of them unreservedly trust Garashi, Choza's honest face showed a trace of shock. What a strong trust. It's hard to imagine what they have experienced in the past 2 years. Strength and perfect character are not enough to win everyone's trust. As a leader, the most important thing is to lead everyone to victory. Only those who can continuously lead everyone to success can gain everyone's unreserved trust and support. Many people who noticed this were shocked. Could it be that Shushi hasn't even experienced a single defeat on the Eastern Front? Thinking of this, they had more confidence in the coming war. Maybe, Garashi can really lead Woodleaf to victory. At this time, Garashi, who was walking toward them, suddenly looked to the side with a serious expression. Who's there? Come out. The next moment, 3 people in black coats jumped out from the ground. To be able to hide their presence in front of so many people, these 3 people are definitely not simple. The surrounding people were shocked and quickly took out their kunai to be on alert. Garashi was also a little surprised. It's the 3 of them? Nagato, who was blindfolded, sighed. I told you this wouldn't work. Yahiko laughed. Haha, who told our identity to be a little sensitive. As people of the Rain Country, swaggering into Woodleaf's camp is not appropriate. Conan sighed. Then don't you think as people of the Rain Country, it's even more inappropriate for us to sneak in? Is it? Yahiko asked without any self-awareness. Nagato and Conan sighed together and then pointed to the surroundings. Yahiko turned his head and saw hundreds of Woodleaf ninjas vigilantly surrounding them. Seeing this, Yahiko decisively raised his hands. That, if I say this is a misunderstanding, would you believe me? Chapter 189. Soon, the three were invited to the conference room for tea. Don't be so serious, it's like you're interrogating a criminal. Yahiko laughed. What? The people sent by Hanzo don't even dare to admit their identity? Danzo sat opposite and sneered. Although we're from the Rain Country, we're not with Hanzo. Yahiko looked serious. Let me formally introduce myself. My name is Yahiko, the leader of Akatsuki. Garashi asked softly. Akatsuki? An organization dedicated to peace. Yahiko nodded heavily and winked at Garashi. Hey Garashi, do you remember us? Danzo suddenly became active. Do you know each other? Yahiko said casually. We met at the Chunin exam 2 years ago. Danzo looked at him suspiciously. To be able to sneak in without being discovered by most people with such strength, it's impossible that you can't even enter the Chunin exam, right? We snatched the hidden rain spot, of course, we didn't dare to make a big deal out of it. Yahiko spread out his hands. See, I told you we have nothing to do with Hanzo. Danzo was a little unhappy that he didn't catch anything, so he asked, Commander, what do you think? Shushi didn't care about his sarcasm. Instead, he looked around cautiously. He couldn't help but be careful. The scene in front of him overlapped too much with the scene in his memory. Danzo was on the side and they came for peace. If he was replaced by Hanzo, he could perfectly replicate the scene of Nagato summoning the Geto Mazo. Therefore he must be wary of Kuroto. Of course, with my eyes. Garashi casually said, then looked at the three with a smile. Yahiko, Nagato, Konan, long time no see. Yahiko patted Nagato Konan's shoulder and said with a smile, I told you that Garashi would never forget his old friend. Konan rolled his eyes at him. Then why did you sneak us in and cause trouble for Garashi? Yahiko was at a loss for words for a moment. He stammered, it will be very embarrassing if we are rejected. In fact, the three of them were also incomparably shocked. Compared to 2 years ago, they were able to create Akatsuki and become the leader of Akatsuki, which could be considered as a small achievement. But Garashi directly became the commander of the 2 great ninja villages, Woodleaf and San Crypsis. Compared to them, he can definitely be regarded as a big shot. Therefore, they were also worried that a big shot, like Garashi, would not remember their old friend whom they had only met once. After some jesting, Yahiko said seriously, We are here for peace. Peace. The pain caused by the war is enough. If the war continues to expand, it will not be a good thing for both sides. Yahiko took a deep breath and slammed his head on the table. So, I implore you not to let the war continue to expand. Naive stupid. Danzo sneered. You want the cooperation between the 2 great ninja villages to be cancelled because of your words? Garashi rarely agreed with Danzo. Woodleaf has been passively participating in the war. You should say that to Rock Crypsis. Moreover, the war has reached this point, and it is no longer something that can be changed by 1 or 2 people. Everyone is tied to the war chariot and only at the end can we stop. Seeing Garashi's firm attitude, Danzo slightly raised his eyebrows. Humph. He is much more decisive than Hiruzen in this regard. Hearing Garashi's words, Yahiko didn't feel embarrassed at all. Haha, so it's still not enough? At this time Nagato asked puzzledly. Garashi, you also want peace, right? Why do you refuse us? Of course I want peace, but the pursuit of peace has to be based on the foundation of reality. Garashi shook his head and said, If you really want peace, ending the war as soon as possible is the real way to bring peace. Nagato was in a trance. Ending the war as soon as possible? Danzo was already impatient. He came here today to interrogate them about Hanzo, not to listen to them talk about some peaceful game. You 3, if you have nothing else to say, get out of here. He was now convinced that the 3 of them were not Hanzo's people. Such naive ideas have no room to survive in Hanzo's hands. Garashi knocked on the table with dissatisfaction. Danzo-san, be polite to my friends. Danzo proudly turned his head away. Looking at Garashi's performance today, he didn't want to argue with this kid. Konan looked at Garashi gratefully. Thank you, we took the liberty to disturb you today. Don't mind it, but as a friend I still have to warn you, Garashi said in a low voice. It's best not to talk about peace. Try to persuade Hanzo and Tsuchikage, they won't be as easy to talk to as I am. Yahiko nodded seriously. I understand, we won't take the initiative to talk to them. Won't take the initiative to talk to them? Garashi sighed. Forget it, it's better this way. I need to find an opportunity to get the Rain Tiger Freedom technique. I need to inject chakra into the rain and control it freely. I can even control it from a long distance. If I can figure out the principle, maybe I can make up for the flaw of the five-sense manipulation. The essence of genjutsu is still the use of chakra, but the difference is that the general genjutsu is used to interfere with the opponent's chakra, while the five-sense manipulation is used to control the flow of chakra in the opponent's body. At this point, when encountering an enemy with a strong perception of chakra, or a creation of a different system like zero-tailed, the opponent may be able to detect something wrong. Of course, it's only to detect the problem, just like zero-tailed, who knows that it's difficult to break the genjutsu. But for Garashi, who pursues perfection, even a flaw is enough to be an eyesore. Therefore, he needs a more subtle way to use chakra. For example, integrating chakra into the air, or injecting chakra into the moonlight like infinite Tsukuyami. Using these mediums as carriers to get close to the target so as to achieve the deceptive effect of chakra. At the same time, seeing that Nagato and the other two walked out of the camp safely, Xiaohei, who was observing secretly from the tree, relaxed. Fortunately no one found his Rinnegan. Xiaohei secretly breathed a sigh of relief and gritted his teeth. We can't delay any longer. We must let Madara appear in front of them as soon as possible to guide them. Otherwise, when his Rinnegan awakens, and he realizes that powerful power, it will be difficult for him to remain in awe of Madara's identity. But, with Madara's current physical condition, it's impossible to deceive them. We have to find a spokesperson among them, and I also need to officially appear in front of Madara with a reasonable identity. Well, who should I find? Chapter 190. As an older baby who has been longing for maternal love for 1,000 years, Black felt that it was too difficult for him. He spent thousands of years waiting for the reincarnation of Azura and Indra's chakra. Failure after failure, waiting again and again, finally let him see hope in Madara. But what's the result? Madara just opened his Rinnegan, but he will soon die of old age. This is something he absolutely can't allow. Fortunately, Madara didn't want to sit still and wait for death. He found the young Nagato and used him as a container for his eyes. But there is still a problem. That is, how to ensure that Nagato goes on the route he plans. The best way is to introduce an Uchiha Madara, to replace him in carrying out the plan. Madara didn't think of this, but the problem is that he is too old now, and a qualified spokesperson is not so easy to cultivate. Therefore, all this can only be handed over to the hard-working Black. Secretly cheering himself up, Black pondered again. This year's Uchiha is still too weak. They can't even find a person who can support the role of Uchiha Madara. Madara's spokesperson is not so easy to be. His strength is too weak. A test will reveal flaws. Naturally, it is impossible to convince Nagato. There is also a crucial detail: temperament and temperament. These inner strengths can't be cultivated overnight. Although I found two little guys who barely passed the test, they are too young. The older one is only 5 years old. It's difficult to support them in Madara's current state. In addition to being distressed, he glanced at the people in front of him. When his gaze swept past someone, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and stopped. Wait, why do I have to choose a spokesperson from the Uchiha clan? The reason why he chose the Uchiha is mainly because the power of this clan is easy to grow quickly, and most of them have an extreme mentality and are easy to be bewitched. They will not resist the sensitive identity of their ancestor as much as outsiders. But this doesn't mean that other candidates won't be able to do it. He is the son of the god who created the biggest conspiracy in the shinobi world, so fooling a little wood-leaf ninja is just a piece of cake for him. Thinking of this, he became more and more excited. Even in my eyes, this kid's strength and talent can be ranked in the top 10. Moreover, to be able to become the commander of the coalition forces at this age, his tolerance is not much inferior to Madara. Most importantly, he seems to be a person who values ties. At this moment, a few shurikens were shot at him quickly and accurately. I've been exposed? Black Zetsu didn't say anything else, but his ability to hide and escape was absolutely top-notch. Almost as soon as the shuriken appeared, he quickly fled. In the next moment, Garashi teleported over and used Otama Rasengan to break the tree trunk. Is it Black Zetsu? Standing on the broken part of the tree, Garashi's eyes showed a hint of confusion. Nagato has obviously left, why is he still here? And that kind of terrifying gaze, is he targeting me? Garashi couldn't help but think this way. If the 7 legendary swordsmen can target him, then Black Zetsu can naturally do the same. The future is not fixed, and treating the future as a fixed fact will only put oneself in a difficult situation. However, treating me as prey. Playing with fire is a very dangerous thing. These thoughts flashed through Shuji's mind. In the outside world, Danzo and the others also chased after him. Enemies again? Looking at the traces on the tree, Danzo's face was very ugly. One by one they lurked under their eyes. Did they use the woodleaf camp as a toilet? Coming and going as they please? It's a very strange ability. Even I couldn't see how he escaped. Shushi nodded with a serious look on his face. Seeing this, a jonin who supported Danzo said. When Danzo-sama was the commander, there weren't so many people lurking around. Enough, no need to say more. Danzo directly interrupted. Danzo-sama, you? The jonin who doubted him asked. In the face of the overall situation, there is no need to doubt and attack. We have to unite. Don't let the enemy see us as a joke. Danzo said righteously, but in his heart he was cursing. Idiot. Just after the transfer of power we found two groups of people lurking around, and Shimizu Garashi found them. Doesn't this mean that the defense was too lax when I was in power? Even the spies didn't find them before? Thinking of this, Danzo felt tired. Looking at the people under Hiruzen and then looking at the people under him, the gap between them is so big, how can he play with Hiruzen? Shushi naturally saw through Danzo's thoughts, but he was too lazy to point it out. Instead, he looked at the big hole in the tree with a dignified expression. Oh, Black Zetsu is really cautious as always. In Garashi's view, Black Zetsu's strength is definitely not weak. A pig that had lived for 1,000 years would have become a demon. How could Black Zetsu, the younger brother of the Immortal of 6 Realms, be weak? Even Guy, who opened all 8 gates, needed the last blow to destroy part of Madara's body, but Black Zetsu easily pierced Madara's heart. You know, Madara is beyond the definition of immortal. Even if he is unprepared, his sage body is enough to be immune to most of the damage. Obviously, his strength is not weak, but he doesn't even have the most basic resistance. Maybe this is an opportunity to study the yin-yang release. At the same time, he was also coveting Black Zetsu's body. After all, it's based on the yin-yang release. At the same time, on the ground more than 10 kilometers away. In Garashi's eyes, Black Zetsu's strength was not weak, but after escaping for more than 10 kilometers, he quietly showed his head. What kind of monster is this guy? Even Madara and Azura didn't notice my existence. How did he do it? Black Zetsu was not afraid of the strength of the other party, but he was afraid that the means he relied on to survive was broken. For him, who had been hiding in the dark for thousands of years, suddenly exposed to the sun, the fear and confusion in his heart were almost infinitely magnified. This perception. No, it's not perception at all, it's intuition based on his strong soul. Just because I looked at him, he found my existence. This kid's talent is more terrible than I thought. In fact, Shushi wasn't as powerful as he thought he was. The only reason Shushi was able to detect his presence was because Shushi was aware of his existence. But Black Zetsu didn't know this, so he hesitated. The failure rate is too high to design someone with such a keen intuition. However, in the end, the psychology of gambling prevailed. I'll try. If I fail, I'll change the target. Chapter 191. The previous episode didn't affect the course of the war. On the third day, the 3 armies marched to the front line. One was led by Danzo and went straight to the right wing of the Earth Country. The other was led by Raza and attacked the left wing of the Earth Country. The last route was led by Shushi, who stood between the country of Earth and the country of Rain, cutting off the route of reinforcements from the country of Rain. Rain Country. Hanzo's expression was calm as he looked out of the window. Tell me what you know now. The jonin behind him hurriedly reported, according to the information we have, the leader of the Akatsuki seems to have gone to Woodleaf to fight for peace, but the information is limited to some fragmentary information. As for what they talked about in the meeting room, we don't know. Hanzo's eyes were full of ridicule. If that's the case, then can they still come back? What they are doing is nothing more than putting on a show for the people of the Rain Country. Once we are defeated, they will be able to persuade Konoha to retreat, and then under the cheers of everyone, they will naturally take over the Rain Country. Oh, Woodleaf really played a good hand. Hearing Hanzo's analysis, the jonin on the field were shocked and angry. Damn, these Woodleaf ninjas are too despicable. If it weren't for Hanzo-sama's wisdom, we might have been deceived. Hanzo-sama, what should we do now? Woodleaf and San Crypsis allied forces have already blocked our door. Hanzo was silent for a moment, and after a long while, he said, I was thinking about whether to pretend to be a stalemate with them, and drag them here as an explanation to rock Crypsis. But now it seems that they won't give me this opportunity. Let's go, let me meet the young commander of Woodleaf. On the border between the Rain Country and the Earth Country. The rain continued to fall. It seems that the people of the Rain Country don't dare to come out. Of course they don't dare to come out, they are just a small country. How can they have the courage to fight against the allied forces of our two great villages? What a pity. I wanted to try out my new skills on them. Hearing the discussion of the people below, Garashi looked to the side. It seems that the people of the Rain Country will not come out for a while. Chiyo-senpai, do you want to set up a tent to avoid the rain? Chiyo's eyelids drooped, looking lazy. Forget it. You, the commander of the coalition forces, are drenched in the rain. Why should an old woman like me hide? Because of Sasori's assassination of the former Kazekage, in order to atone for her sins, she was more concerned about the village's missions. However, she still didn't like a certain person who dared to pimp her out. Garashi didn't care about her attitude. A person with a sharp tongue but a soft heart was much better than a person who said nice things but stabbed him in the back. Then I'll have to trouble Senior Chiyo? Garashi was speaking when he suddenly looked ahead with a serious expression. On the other side of the plain, a masked Hanzo came out with a large group of hidden Ray ninjas. Garashi asked with a smile, "You actually chose to fight head-on? I thought Hanzo-senpai would let people sneak attack and leave a deep impression on us." Hanzo's tone was calm. "I did have this plan, but I have always been a cautious person. When I confirmed it for the third time I found something wrong. So you can ask your men to come out." Garashi smiled. "You're worthy of being a great shinobi-senpai. My little thoughts really can't be hidden from you. However, let them come out. I always feel that you should have only found the location of some people, and now you're deliberately tricking me, right?" Chiyo looked at Shushi with a strange expression. When did this little devil arrange it? He even managed to hide it from her. If the target of the ambush was not a very vigilant person like Hanzo, maybe Garashi's plan would have succeeded. You think this old man can't do anything? Hanzo bit his finger and made a hand seal. The next moment, a huge salamander fish appeared on the battlefield. The moment he summoned the salamander, the hidden Ray ninjas around him were very experienced and fled to both sides. Poison spray. A thick purple poison mist was sprayed out from the salamander's mouth. Even from far away it gave people a feeling of dizziness. Wind Release Team Attack. Under the order, the Wind Release ninjas gathered in advance used their ninjutsu. Wind Release Great Breakthrough. Originally it was just a small whirlwind, but when gathered together, it evolved into a large tornado and blew towards the poison mist. Their reaction is not slow. Hanzo was slightly surprised. The enemies he encountered before didn't have the ability to gather so many Wind Release ninjas like this. After all, with the huge size of the salamander, for the compound Wind Release to be effective, at least hundreds of people, and they must be proficient in using C-class ninjutsu. But don't think that this is enough, shinobi, counterattack. Yes. Salamander answered clumsily, and then gathered a large cyclone in his mouth and counterattacked with a large-scale wind release. The two tornadoes violently collided with each other, the wind roared and finally burst into countless wind blades blowing in all directions. Even the poison mist was completely stirred up and almost covered half of the battlefield. Still too young. Hanzo was laughing loudly, but when he saw the scene of the poison mist dispersing, his smile froze on his face. The Woodleaf Sand Crypsis ninjas were wearing gas masks and calmly stood in the residual poison mist. On the contrary, many of his men were directly poisoned because they didn't escape in time. He couldn't equip every one of his men with antidotes. Bastard, this kid actually equipped everyone with gas masks. How can he be so rich? Hanzo roared in his heart. The price of gas masks is not cheap. It's okay to equip a few people, but to equip an entire army, it's something he didn't even dare to think about. After the anger he calmed down. They can wear gas masks, but what about you? Most of the ninjutsu are from the mouth. Wearing a gas mask means that most of the ninjutsu can't be used, and daring to bind their hands and feet in a fight with him is no different from actively seeking death. Moreover, his salamander only needs 5 minutes to spray again. It's impossible to wait for the poison mist to completely dissipate. Don't worry, I don't need gas masks. Garashi said. The shadow clone hiding under the ground instantly dissipated, and then the refined chakra returned to his body. Usually, using half of chakra to refine natural chakra is of course a very dangerous thing. But this time is different. This time they have the initiative, so naturally they can prepare in advance. In the next moment, the sage mask appeared on Garashi's face. Next, let me experience the strength of a shinobi demigod. Chapter 192. Sage Mode. Hanzo naturally heard about Garashi's signature ability, but he didn't take it seriously. Oh, what an arrogant little devil. On the other side, Chiyo took out the scroll that sealed the 10 people. Not putting this old woman in your eyes, what an arrogant old devil. Hanzo choked and angrily said, You old woman, why didn't you stay in the sand crypsis and wait for your death? Instead you came out to join in the fun. Chiyo drooped her eyes. I have to find something for myself to do. Well, let's stop reminiscing about the old days. If we continue, a certain little guy will gossip about this old woman. With that, Chiyo manipulated Jin Song's 10 people to attack Hanzo. Hanzo pulled off his mask. Water release. Great waterfall technique. He wore the mask not because he was afraid of being poisoned, but because he was worried that the poisonous gas from the transplanted poison sac would affect the people around him. Although if the poison sac ruptured he would also be affected, but almost no one knew about that secret. Seeing the turbulent waterfall rushing toward her, Chiyo's expression was calm. What an annoying guy, always liked to use us puppet masters as a breakthrough point. While speaking she manipulated the 3 Buddha, monk, and Dharma puppets to activate the 3 treasures suction. A powerful suction force was generated from the center of the 3 puppets, which diverted the flow of water that was rushing toward Chiyo. Hanzo got rid of the suction force and rushed toward Chiyo. Don't fool people, you old woman's physical ability is not weak. Because he knew that Chiyo's body was not as fragile as other puppet masters, he took off his mask, intending to use his poisonous gas to deal with the enemy. But before he could get close he was sent flying by Garashi's giant rock fist. Like a stone on the river, Hanzo bounced up and down several times before he finally stopped his tumbling body and got up. He looked at Garashi with eyes full of surprise. You dare to fight me in close combat? Are you not afraid of death, or do you have something to rely on? What do you think? Shushi followed him like a shadow, his hands clasped together like a heavy hammer. What a vile little devil. Hanzo hurriedly dodged. The hammer whistled in his ear, and with a boom sound Hanzo felt the whole earth violently tremble. After he saw the collapsed ground from the corner of his eyes twitched. You should be a vile and violent little devil. But you underestimate this old man too much. Facing Shushi who was close at hand, Hanzo formed a seal with one hand and used the water prison jutsu with his left hand to control Shushi, while his right hand pulled the chain sickle towards Shushi. You two at least take care of this old woman. You're fighting so fiercely that I can't keep up with you. Although she said that, Chiyo's puppet was not slow at all. Under her control, it blocked the sickle with an extremely fast speed. However, Hanzo did not ignore her existence. The direction of the scythe happened to pass by the position of the salamander. Although the salamander was somewhat clumsy in this case, it was still able to block the puppet for a moment. But after blocking for a moment, the 10 people couldn't catch up with the scythe. They could only helplessly watch as the scythe cut through the air, cut through the water prison, and then cut Garashi's body in half. Chiyo screamed, Aya, he died so miserably. Cut into 2 pieces. Oh, against this old man? Hanzo said with a startled look. Wait, 2 pieces? Hanzo hurriedly turned his head. In his line of sight, a fist was constantly enlarging, and then fiercely fell on his cheek. The next moment, Hanzo flew out like a cannonball. With a loud bang, his whole body was embedded in the ground. Seeing this, the people of Hidden Rain on the battlefield couldn't believe it. How is this possible? That's Hanzo-sama. Sand Crypsis Ninja, who had dealt with Hidden Rain many times, was also secretly stunned. Even the legendary shinobi demigod was sent flying. Garashi leader is really too strong. Woodleaf Ninja's eyes lit up. Too powerful, worthy of our Woodleaf's hero. But soon, Hanzo jumped out of the huge hole, spitting out blood, and looked at the opposite side with calm eyes. Secret jutsu similar to Kirin's water transformation jutsu? This is not a smart decision. This old man's scythe is coated with poison, and the water transformation jutsu will integrate the poison into the body. Garashi raised his eyebrows. Poison all over the body? It sounds like I should use the advantage of being a poison man before I die. With that said, Garashi rushed towards Hanzo with a mutual destruction attitude. Hanzo naturally didn't dare to let Garashi get close. While he stopped Garashi, he made hand seals to summon a huge hemispherical water prison. Water release, great explosion shockwave. Looking at the small lake that appeared out of thin air in the center of the battlefield, the ninjas of the Alliance were stunned. Is this a joke? He actually created a lake on the plain. Is this still a ninja? Worthy of the legendary shinobi demigod. The range of this water prison was extremely large. Almost the moment it was summoned, the 4 puppets were trapped in the water. The movement of the puppets in the water was limited by the resistance. But Hanzo was moving as light as a fish in the water, and in the blink of an eye, one of the puppets was almost destroyed. Not only that, the lake was constantly moving towards Chiyo's position. It's really troublesome. Chiyo didn't have time to feel sorry for the puppets. She was thinking about how to deal with it, when she saw a purple-red rain coming from behind the water prison. It's really amazing, one created a lake out of thin air and the other easily made it rain. It really makes this old woman ashamed. Venom, torrential rain. Hanzo, who was trying to destroy the second puppet, suddenly felt that something was wrong. Why did he feel that the color of the water prison was changing? Looking back, Hanzo's whole body was not good. The raindrops mixed with Salamander's venom fell into the water prison, and at a very fast speed the entire water prison was dyed purple-red. In this way the name of the water prison was really not wrong, but not on the enemy but on himself. Hanzo, who felt that his hands and feet were a little numb, didn't have time to think. He directly detonated the explosive tag, using the power of the shockwave to blow himself out of the water prison, and then quickly bit the detoxification capsule that he had hidden in his mouth in advance. While feeling relieved, Hanzo couldn't help but secretly twitch his mouth. Why do I feel that using poison to deal with this kid is a mistake? However, as a demigod who has been famous for many years, his mind is naturally very strong. From the beginning until now, all the things that went wrong at most caused a slight ripple in his mind. After escaping the range of the venom, Hanzo quickly made hand seals and patted the ground. Water release, 100 Dragon Bullet technique. The water prison that has been soaked into a poisonous lake was just a waste. Hundreds of purple-red venom dragons formed from the lake, and ferociously bit towards Chiyo. You gave me this poison, do you think it's fun? Chiyo looked disgusted, but with a dignified look, she called back the 10 people in front of her. Puppet Jutsu, 10-way rotation. The powerful air cannon instantly bounced the air and collided with the venom dragons. With a loud bang, the terrifying air waves surged in all directions, and the venom dragons exploded one by one, turning into a large area of venom rain covering the entire battlefield. For a time, the battlefield was full of painful screams. Chapter 193. Even Hanzo, who had antibodies, couldn't withstand the poison. Even if it was diluted many times in the water, it was still not something that ordinary ninjas could resist. Therefore, when the poison fell from the sky, the battlefield that was originally filled with the sound of killing was covered with painful screams. Hanzo and Chiyo looked indifferent. They had experienced many wars, so they naturally didn't care about life and death. But Garashi's eyes were full of unbearable color. After hesitating for a moment, he touched his eyebrows with his thumb. The next moment, an unusually huge chakra was released from his body. Sensing the powerful aura of Garashi, Hanzo was vigilant. He was worried that Garashi was going to use a big move to end the battle as soon as possible, but he found that a super large slug was summoned by the opponent. Garashi said with a tired look, "Lake-sama, please split out and use my chakra to heal Woodleaf and Sand Crypsis ninjas." The big slug's character was not as jumpy as the little slugs. It said with a gentle attitude, "I know, but is the situation really okay now?" "It's okay, please believe me." "Well, I understand." After that, the big slug split into countless little slugs and jumped toward the position of the poison ninjas on the battlefield. If it was a complete poison, such a simple long-range treatment certainly wouldn't work, but after diluting the poison, the toxicity was not that strong. At least it could stabilize the injury and prevent it from worsening. Woodleaf ninjas who were treated were very moved. Garashi-sama didn't care about his own safety. In the face of a legendary enemy like Hanzo the Salamander, he still wasted chakra to heal them. This kind of sunshine made the cold rain-soaked bodies warm. As for the Sand Crypsis ninjas, they were moved to tears. As the battlefield commander, as Garashi, as the Woodleaf ninja in the face of a strong enemy, he wasted chakra to heal Woodleaf ninjas, but even they thought of it. Such breadth of mind and tolerance simply made them, who had previously questioned the village's decision, feel ashamed. At the same time, a group of hidden rain ninjas looked at their god with hopeful eyes, but they were doomed to be disappointed. Hanzo was too lazy to look at them. He just stared at Garashi. His eyes were full of uncontrollable joy. "Really stupid, but this old man has to thank you for your stupidity." He has always used Chiyo as a breakthrough point. In addition to the fact that the puppeteer's body is relatively weak, it is more because of the information provided by Shushi. A monster-level ninja with the Flying Thunder God technique and the ability to replenish chakra is not easy to deal with. But Garashi's chakra, the Flying Thunder God Chakra Jutsu's Chakra's Jutsu, may not be able to use Flying Thunder God Jutsu. Even Chiyo secretly frowned. "Although I am very grateful to you for doing this, you are still too reckless. Garashi forced a smile and said, "Rest assured, I will not fall before defeating the enemy." While speaking, chakra refined from the ring on his pinky finger was constantly flowing into his body. This ring made from the body of Zero-Tailed was able to absorb the despair of the hidden rain ninjas to refine chakra. Although dark chakra has some hidden dangers, it is not a big problem for Garashi, who has been plucking fox fur all year round. Kyubi chakra is far more ferocious than dark chakra when it is not controlled, otherwise, it will not always be the representative of evil and ominous in the eyes of the world. Hanzo did not know that Garashi was playing him. After all, he has never even heard of Zero-Tailed. Moreover, in order to avoid being detected by the ability similar to Byakugan, Garashi deliberately controlled chakra to wander near the 8 gates in his body. Even if it is discovered, it will only be regarded as the hidden power in his body. This was a rare opportunity, so Hanzo waved the chain and threw the scythe tied to the end of the chain towards Shushi. Garashi quietly stood in place until the moment the scythe came. He slightly leaned his body to avoid the attack. Seeing Garashi easily avoided the attack, Hanzo was not surprised but happy. It seems to be an understatement, but in fact there is a certain risk. Willing to take the risk to save physical strength and chakra, doesn't it mean that the opponent is about to reach his limit? Thinking of this, Hanzo no longer hesitated and attacked Garashi with all his strength. Water release, water shockwave. A super large water wave rushed to the sky, and then like a waterfall rushed toward Garashi. Really a troublesome little brat. Chio sighed, and the 9 puppets blocked in front of Garashi and launched a joint attack. The air cannon and the waterfall violently collided, intertwined, and turned into a huge waterspout connecting the sky and the earth. Looking at the raging waterspout on the battlefield, Hanzo's eyes showed a trace of fear. Even if it is him, if he is caught in it, he will not have a good end. At this time, a sound of breaking air came from behind. Hanzo quickly moved sideways. A stream of light flashed by, and it was Shushi who was rushing towards him. "You dare to take the initiative to attack, you are decisive." Hanzo's eyes slightly narrowed, "But this will only accelerate the speed of your candle in the wind extinguishing. Is it all in one throw?" Chio whispered and sent out the remaining 9 puppets. "Let this old woman cover you." Garashi twisted his body and kicked out his right leg like a whip. Hanzo raised his scythe to block the attack, but when he was about to counterattack, those puppets surrounded him. Seeing this, Hanzo had to use the body flicker technique to avoid the attack. Taking advantage of the time when the puppets and Garashi gathered together, Hanzo made a hand seal and patted the ground. Water release, great waterfall technique. Hanzo naturally did not think that this technique can bring any threat to them, so the moment he completed the hand seal, he replaced himself with a water clone, while his body merged with the waterfall. Seeing the raging waterfall rushing toward them, the puppets, like before, used their joint attack to break the waterfall. The next moment, the broken waterfall turned into a heavy downpour. Chio, who was guarding against Garashi's next move, was shocked to find that the raindrops falling from the sky turned into dozens of Hanzos, besieging Garashi. Chio was about to warn him, but she saw Garashi's reaction was faster than her. While using the Flying Thunder God to dodge, he also left a slug clone in place. Acid bomb. The clone exploded, turning into acid and exploding in the surrounding. Those water clones were nothing, but Hanzo's body issued an uncontrollable cry of pain. Even if he managed to avoid most of the acid, part of his cheek was still corroded, and his face was disfigured. Covering his injured cheek, Hanzo coldly said, "Damn brat, I really can't underestimate you." Garashi gasped for breath. "Sorry, I don't want to be defeated here, so I can only disappoint you." Seeing Garashi's appearance, Hanzo was secretly annoyed. This brat's combat experience and on-the-spot reaction were superb, so he could not scheme against him. Then what's the use of scheming? Can't he just use chakra to crush him? Chapter 194. Hanzo suddenly realized that compared to his previous self, the current him was thinking too much, calculating too much, so much so that he forgot his own beliefs. But this kid in front of him at such a young age, his shining faith made him unable to look directly at him. So, chakra was almost exhausted, but he was still able to fight this old man's strength? Taking a deep breath, Hanzo's eyes became firm again. "Kid, thank you for helping me find my lost self." Garashi was startled, his eyes were blank. What did he do? He always felt that Hanzo's mind was filled with something extraordinary. Water release, water dragon bite. A huge water dragon rushed out from the water. Hanzo stepped on the top of the water dragon and swooped down to bite Garashi. Chio-senpai, please cover for me. You little brats are so desperate, it seems that this old woman has no choice but to go all out. With that, Chio controlled the 9 puppets in a special posture and directly transformed into the Gundam form. Of course, because one of the puppets was damaged, the transformation was not complete. But even so, the new giant puppet is already shocking enough, and many ninjas are looking at it with shining eyes. My god, what is that? It looks a bit cool. Chio-senpai actually has such a trick. It can be combined? Garashi was slightly surprised and immediately jumped on the shoulder of the giant puppet. The giant puppet punched out, destroying the water dragon with a single punch. Hanzo stepped on the splashing water and leaped into the air, waving his scythe as he jumped towards Shueisha. Garashi slightly bent his legs and shot out like a cannonball. Kenjutsu, flash. Monstrous strength, unparalleled. At the place where the fist and the scythe met, a burst of air rippled. The next moment, a wave of air radiated in all directions. Many ninjas who were close to them were directly blown away, even the giant puppet faintly swayed. But the 2 people in the battle were not affected at all. As soon as they fell to the ground, they unrelentingly met each other. In just a few seconds, the 2 collided dozens of times. Worthy to be the man who can directly suppress the Land of Iron's admiral. Without using Sage Mode, I'm definitely not his match in terms of physical skills. Garashi sighed in his heart. The other party is worthy of being a demigod standing at the top of the shinobi world. His strength is terrible. Even if he and Chio joined forces, it was difficult to gain the upper hand. However, Garashi did not belittle himself. His body was still growing, so it was unfair to compare him to Hanzo at his peak. Furthermore, it was only a physical technique. Even in this state, you can still fight this old man head-on without falling behind. Even the Sannin at your age are far inferior to you. Hanzo couldn't help but praise. Unfortunately, you're too naive. Water release, high-pressure water cannon. Immortal technique, concentrated Rasengan. Like a stubborn stone in a river, the Sage method Rasengan split the highly compressed water cannon in the middle, and the water flowed to both sides. However, just as Garashi rushed straight to Garashi with the Rasengan in his hand, the Rasengan suddenly disappeared, and even the Sage mask on Garashi's face gradually faded. It was time. Out of Sage mode? Seeing this, Hanzo's mouth slightly raised. If I didn't guess wrong, your immunity to poison is because of Sage mode. Now you have. But before he could finish his sentence, Shushi's face, which had faded away, reappeared at an even faster speed. Suddenly, Hanzo's smile froze on his face. How can you use Sage mode so quickly? No, why do you still have chakra? Hanzo's eyes widened. This was unreasonable. Faith can create miracles, Shushi said in a serious tone. After the anger, Hanzo calmed down. The pressure from Garashi in front of him was far less than before. Squeezing your life potential to enter the incomplete version of Sage mode? Kid, you're really decisive. Garashi's expression was strange. Obviously, Hanzo thought that his one-time use of Sage mode was a forbidden technique like the Hashiman Tanku. But this was also good, he didn't have to explain. On the side, the giant puppet's right fist shot out like a rocket. Hanzo easily jumped away, while his left hand formed a seal and his right hand brandished his sword to attack Garashi. For a while, the 2 of them fought again. However, Garashi was obviously at a disadvantage this time. After a few collisions, he was blasted away by Hanzo's water release. You finally reached your limit? Hanzo breathed a sigh of relief, but he didn't relax his vigilance. Instead, he used water release to continuously consume Garashi's physical strength. Seeing Garashi, who had beaten the enemy several times before, was now suppressed so miserably, the allied ninjas on the battlefield felt guilty. Garashi, Sama, take back your summon beast, you have done enough. Ordinary ninjas like us are not worthy of you doing this. Not only them, but even the ninjas of the Rain Country were moved. Is this guy really not afraid of death? Although it's stupid, it's also a stupid that deserves admiration. And this scene was also noticed by the 2 groups of people who were secretly observing. He can actually do this for those ninjas. In the distance, Yahiko was shocked. Perhaps this faith is what the Rain Country lacks. Protecting his companions at all costs? Conan pursed his lips. What a handsome man. What should I do? Should I save Garashi? After the shock, Yahiko said frantically, as a friend I should stand up, but no matter what, Hanzo is a person of the Rain Country. Just when Yahiko was in a dilemma, Nagato on the side said seriously, he will win. Yahiko was surprised and hurriedly asked, Garashi is holding back his strength? Nagato shook his head. I don't know. Yahiko's mouth twitched. Then why are you so sure? Didn't he say it already? The way to achieve peace is to end the war as soon as possible. Nagato firmly said, how can a person with this kind of awareness easily give up his life? Yahiko stared. You mean Garashi is not impulsive, but from the beginning he planned to save his companions and end the war at the same time. At the same time, a black figure came out from the ground. That's it, hit him harder. Black Zetsu was ecstatic. He was worried about how to scheme against the other side, but the opportunity came to him. For him, as long as he is not completely dead, he can use Inyang escape to save him. As long as I beat him to the brink of death, I'll be able to secretly possess his body and simulate the scent of his death. Then I'll secretly move his corpse away. I've been unlucky for 1,000 years. It's time for me to be lucky. Chapter 195. Get rid of this hidden rain as soon as possible. Go support Garashi-sama first. Noticing that Garashi was gradually showing signs of decline, dozens of allied jonins quickly left their battlefield to support him. Can't even stop a few people, what a waste. Hanzo was annoyed. Wood Leaf's advantage in manpower is too great. As a jonin, his subordinates can't stop him at all. However, you want to interfere with this old man's battle? Water release, Heaven Blade. The raindrops falling from the sky above the country of rain suddenly changed. They turned into incomparably sharp rain blades and shot down at an extremely fast speed. The gap between jonin and jonin is sometimes bigger than the gap between jonin and genin. Just like Hanzo himself, he is nominally a demigod in the shinobi world, but in reality he is also a jonin. But dealing with most of the jonins is just like playing around, especially those promoted during the war. Most of them are fake. Except for a few jonins who can quickly form hand seals, the rest of the jonins were pierced by the rain blades in an instant, their bodies spurting blood, and they fell down screaming in pain. Seeing this, the allied jonins on the battlefield couldn't believe it. Defeating dozens of jonins in an instant, is this the strength of a demigod? The fallen jonins were even more confused when they saw Hanzo being suppressed. They thought that the other side was just SOSO, but now it seems that it was because the two opponents were too strong. Can't even withstand a single blow. Hanzo said indifferently, but suddenly his face changed and he slashed with his katana. But Garashi seemed to have predicted it, and kicked Hanzo's right hand holding the katana, kicking the chain scythe away. Hanzo subconsciously reached out to grab it, but Garashi grabbed his right hand. Looking at his right hand clasped with Garashi's fingers, Hanzo was surprised, and at the moment he was absent-minded, his left hand was also clasped. The next moment, the huge puppet strode towards them. Seeing this scene, Hanzo suddenly said, "You want to abolish my ability to form hand seals? I've miscalculated this time. I forgot that you're not afraid of my poison gas. Unfortunately, you still underestimate me. Even if my hands are locked, as long as I can move one finger, I can still use ninjutsu." As he spoke, he raised a huge waterfall behind him and pushed the puppet away. Many ninjas felt despair in their hearts. He can even make hand seals with just one finger. Isn't this demigod too strong? After temporarily dealing with Chiyo's puppet, Hanzo turned around and saw Garashi with his mouth slightly open, seemingly preparing some kind of escape technique. He can also form seals with one finger? Hanzo was surprised, but soon he realized that something was wrong. No, his fingers didn't move at all. Is it a ninjutsu? Hanzo knew that Garashi's Rasengan was a ninjutsu, but he never heard that it could be shot from the mouth. With no time to think, Hanzo also quickly formed a hand seal. From the previous battle, he could tell that the other party was far more knowledgeable than him, but in terms of specialization the other party was much weaker. In this case there was no reason for him to lose. But when he formed the hand seal, Hanzo felt that something was wrong. The condensed energy form in Garashi's mouth was indeed very similar to Rasengan, but when he took a closer look, damn, isn't this a Bijadama? Why does an ordinary person have a Bijadama? Are you really a bijou in disguise? While cursing in his heart, Hanzo frantically twisted his body to get rid of the restraint. But Garashi's hands were like iron clamps that firmly fixed him. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free. Seeing Garashi Jade quickly formed, Hanzo could only sigh and closed his eyes to wait for death. The next moment, a sharp pain hit him, but the imagined scene of his brain being crushed didn't happen. Hanzo opened his eyes and looked down, only to see Garashi's right hand pierced through his chest. Was that just a genjutsu? To be precise, the Rasengan was mixed with Bijuu's aura, and the latter was. Hanzo coughed up blood and fell down, laughing at himself. Haha, I didn't expect this old man to lose to Genjutsu. Seeing Hanzo fall down, the allied ninjas froze for a moment and then cheered loudly. Great, Hanzo was defeated. We won. However, there were many jealous people in these voices. Damn, that old man actually interlocked his fingers with Garashi-sama. Yes, I'm so envious. On the field, Hanzo stared at Garashi. You can burst out such a powerful strength in a desperate situation, is this your belief? Although he didn't know what Hanzo was thinking, Garashi still said righteously, gasping for breath, didn't I say before? I won't fall down until I defeat you. Looking at Shuishi's pained expression, but he still clenched his teeth and persevered. Chiyo was also shocked. He persevered to this point with faith alone. What a strong heart. Sure enough, I didn't lose to you, but to this old man who has lost his faith. Hanzo laughed twice and said in a carefree manner, cut off this old man's head. Since this old man gave Tsunade the title of Sannin many years ago, today, let this old man give you the title of Shinobi Demigod before I die. Hearing this, the whole battlefield was quiet. Shinobi Demigod, this is the title that stands at the top of the ninja world. The most important thing is that this title was given by Hanzo himself. To be recognized by the enemy like this, doesn't it mean that Garashi's strength has convinced the enemy? Thinking of this, the ninja allied forces were excited. As expected of Garashi-sama, he's really amazing. That's the title of the top ninja world. If it's Garashi-sama, we of San Crypsis will definitely recognize it. However, Garashi shook his head slightly. Let me correct a few of your mistakes. First, it's not just me who defeated you. Without the help of Chiyo-sama, the one who fell would have been me. Chiyo looked sideways and was surprised. This kid is calm enough. Not everyone can remain sober in front of such a great honor as Shinobi Demigod. Second, I don't like to be given by others. I will take what I want myself. Hanzo coughed blood and smiled. If it's you, it's not surprising that you have this kind of tolerance. Third, I won't kill you. As a reward for letting Tsunade-sensei go many years ago, I will let you go today. If it was before hearing that Garashi was going to let such a big enemy go, let alone San Crypsis, even Woodleaf couldn't accept it. But now both sides of the alliance just cheered loudly. Regardless of his own safety, Garashi saved all of them and finally turned the tide to defeat Hanzo. In their hearts, he is already a god. Whatever a god wants to do is naturally acceptable. What's more, if Sushi-sama can defeat Hanzo in this state, the result won't change much even if he does it again. Chapter 196. Hanzo looked at Garashi in shock. You don't want to kill me? In his opinion, wasn't Woodleaf's original plan to kill him and then let the Akatsuki take over the Rain Country? Garashi shook his head slightly. Only this time, if you choose to block our way again, you won't be so lucky next time. After all, the Rain Tiger Comfort technique hasn't been obtained yet. How can the scapegoat leave early? Hanzo didn't care about his words, but his face was fierce, and his heart was in pain as if it was bitten by a poisonous snake. Damn it. I was deceived by those brats. They deliberately found Woodleaf and pretended to be Woodleaf's puppets to provoke a fight between me and Woodleaf, and then borrow Woodleaf's hand to kill me. What a terrible scheme. Thinking of his previous evaluation of those three brats, Hanzo only felt a chill in his heart. This is not naive, this is simply sinister. Even a schemer like him was deceived. Hanzo took a deep breath and looked at Garashi with a serious face. As long as you are still in Woodleaf, I will not stand opposite to Woodleaf. Chiyo was shocked. She knew how proud Hanzo was. Even the 5 great shinobi villages Kage was never put in his eyes. In fact, without the support of the 5 great shinobi villages at least, their Kazekage is absolutely not qualified to talk to Hanzo on an equal level. But such a proud and powerful man in front of Garashi said to retreat. However, she can also understand Hanzo's helplessness. One is the rising sun, one is the setting sun. This time he was defeated by Garashi, and in the future it is even more impossible. Instead of suffering in despair, it is better to recognize the fact early. Thinking of this, Chiyo faintly sighed. Next is the era of the young and his era. Garashi didn't care about the meaning of Hanzo's words. He just turned around and shouted, "Stop fighting, the war is over." The Hidden Rain ninjas quickly put down their weapons with a relaxed look on their faces. Their courage was completely shattered the moment Hanzo fell. At the same time, Yahiko said in an exaggerated tone, "Amazing, Hanzo was really defeated by Garashi." Konan covered her mouth and exclaimed, and he actually let Hanzo go. Killing will only make hatred grow. Yahiko laughed with his arms akimbo. It seems that our persuasion last time worked. Nagato, on the other hand, seemed to have opened the door to a new world. He muttered to himself, power is the fastest way to end the war, and ending the war as soon as possible can protect peace. So, the way to protect peace is to obtain great power? In a corner of the battlefield, Black Zetsu gritted his teeth and said, damn it, he's so close. What demigod? He's far worse than Hashirama. However, he should be almost at his limit now. Black Zetsu was eager to try, but he quickly dispelled the crazy idea in his mind. He wasn't discovered by his two brothers, isn't he relying on the word hide? Forget it, I'll wait for him to go to the Rock Crypsis battlefield. One day later, in the land of Earth. In the Jonin meeting, everyone was happy. Woodleaf suffered a big loss this time. Not to mention them, even we didn't expect Rashi to use Bijidama. It's a pity that Rashi said that his current practice is not enough, and he can only use 2 Bijidama at a time. That's enough, at least the morale of the mercenaries and the wandering ninjas is much higher. I didn't expect that guy's practice to have some effect. Anoki nodded with satisfaction, and immediately felt a little regret. It's a pity that Han can't do this. Magic Leech echoed. Han's strength is indeed very strong, but this kind of thing requires the cooperation of the Bijou. Bijidama can be used in both the human form and the Bijou form. The difference is that the human form has a high requirement for chakra to use Bijidama. As for the Bijou form, if the Bijou doesn't cooperate, the possibility of losing control is very high. Once the Bijou is out of control on the battlefield, it's possible to attack without distinguishing between friend and foe. That's why they haven't been able to use Bijidama like Yunin. At this time, Hokuto hesitated and asked. I heard that in the Yunin battlefield, Minato and Shimizu Garashi used the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to transfer Bijidama. If they use this trick again and even transfer Bijidama to our side, don't worry, as long as we drag Danzo and Raza on this battlefield, they won't be able to change the defense. Anoki laughed. With Hanzo's strength, Shimizu Garashi and Chiyo's combination will have a hard time containing him. If Shimizu Garashi dares to leave alone, then they won't be able to take the Rain Country's battlefield. At that time we will join up with Hanzo. As he said that, a Chunin rushed in with a panicked expression. Tsuchikage-sama, the Rain Country has surrendered to Woodleaf. Anoki's face instantly became gloomy. Bastard, that Hanzo guy still dares to act. It doesn't seem to be an act. He was spared by Shimizu Shushi, said the ninja, trembling with fear in his voice. As his voice fell, the entire conference room was in an uproar. How is that possible? That's Hanzo the Salamander. That kind of person who stands at the top of the ninja world, how could he lose to a kid? They can question Hanzo's character, but they absolutely can't doubt his strength. Even the Kage of the 5 great shinobi villages didn't have the title of shinobi demigod, so his strength can be seen. At least, Hanzo is more credible than some of the Woodleaf ninjas who boasted that Sandaime Naruto is the god of shinobi. Anoki asked in a deep voice. What the hell is going on? The ninja who reported shook his head. I'm not very clear, it seems that Shimizu Garashi can restrain Hanzo's poison. Anoki's expression was still very dignified. Although Hanzo's poison is one of the reasons why he can sit on the demigod throne, it's definitely not the only reason. Hanzo's taijutsu and water release are also terrifying. Being able to defeat him only shows that Shimizu Garashi is beyond the concept of terrifying. Shimizu Garashi. Why is this kind of genius always born in Woodleaf? The ninjas on the field were also in a heavy mood. Being able to defeat Hanzo, even if it was with the help of Chiyo, the impact is definitely more terrible than defeating the 7 ninja swordsmen. When this news came, the mercenaries and wandering ninjas were estimated to be shaken. After all, these people were recruited from the nearby small countries, so they naturally know the strength and horror of Hanzo the Salamander. More importantly, Shimizu Garashi was released from the Rain Country battlefield, which means that the Bijidama can't be used casually. Thinking of this, the Jonins had a headache. With the addition of Shimizu Garashi, how did the situation of the war change? We must take advantage of Shimizu Garashi's arrival to expand our advantage. Anoki suddenly said with a serious face. Wait, when was the news of Hanzo's defeat? The ninja who reported said. It seems to be a day ago. Kitsuchi slammed the table and said angrily, why did we receive the news so late? Anoki waved his hand tiredly. Don't blame them if I didn't guess wrong, The delay in the information should be the doing of our ally. Now, let's think about how to deal with the extra ninja coalition. Chapter 197. In the front line of the Earth Country in the temporary war conference room. Danzo's face was gloomy. Who can tell me when did the Yanbi Jinchuriki join the war? Also, why can he use the Baijidama? Ryoma echoed, the heavy losses caused by this failure are entirely due to the intelligence unit's mistake. Inoichi frowned, the intelligence unit is indeed responsible, but to say that it was entirely our mistake. Sorry, intelligence has its limits. That's a tactical mistake. If the commander didn't arrange himself on the Rain Country battlefield, he could have used the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to change all this. Raza said coldly, it is the best choice to let Sir Soseki and Elder Chiyo deal with Hanzo the Salamander. If it were anyone else, they would need at least twice their combat power to achieve the same effect. Ryoma said sarcastically, the Kazekage-sama is very clear about the commander Garashi. Pakura smiled contemptuously, I heard that it was you who proposed that the person who could facilitate the cooperation between the two sides was a hero. Now that the hero isn't Gugu, you want to throw dirty water? Oil Lady Dragon Horse's eyes widened. This bastard actually copied Qingshui Shushi and used his words to shut him up. Just as his mouth was about to escalate into a fight, a familiar voice suddenly came from the outside. Oh, this meeting is really lively. Everyone turned around and saw Garashi and Chiyo coming in one after the other. Garashi, why are you here? Inoichi asked, and suddenly his face changed. Did Hanzo break through your blockade and join the Rock Crypsis? Ryoma suddenly became active. Huh? No way. The commander's battlefield can't even. Shut up, you naggy brat. Chiyo squinted. Do you think we're the same as you waste? Fighting a war and in the end, suffering heavy losses? Ryoma's mouth twitched. This old woman is really annoying. Raza asked, Elder Chiyo, did you win the war? Although he was also scolded, he was used to being despised and didn't care. Chiyo calmly said, the Rain Country has already surrendered. Oh. Cough. Gurgle gurgle. For a moment all kinds of choking sounds could be heard. They had thought that they had won the war by stages. How did they end up accepting the surrender so quickly? Raza suspiciously said, Elder Chiyo, now is not the time to joke around. Chiyo's eyelids drooped. Hanzo was almost killed. Is it strange for them to surrender? This time even Danzo couldn't stay calm. What, Hanzo was almost killed? Raza took a deep breath and asked, Elder Chiyo, what's going on? Chiyo said with an impatient face, it's probably Byong, you hit me, I hit you, and then he was knocked down by this kid. Hearing Chiyo's abstract description, everyone was speechless for a while. Who the hell said Byong in a fight? Seeing everyone's eyes on him, Garashi smiled reservedly. Although there was an element of luck, Hanzo was indeed defeated by me and Chiyo-san. Hearing Garashi say so, there was a sudden gasp in the conference room. Then they looked at Garashi with a strange look in their eyes. A few days after coming to the Western Front, Garashi defeated Danzo, the demigod of the shinobi world. The people of Sand Crypsis knew that Garashi also defeated Sasori of the Red Sand and the puppet Kazekage. Is this a legendary weapon? Fugaku couldn't help but praise. With the news of Garashi-sama defeating Hanzo, the negative impact of this defeat will be minimized. Yamanaka Inoichi also agreed. With Hanzo the Salamander's power, once this news is spread, it will greatly reduce the morale of the mercenaries recruited by Rock Crypsis. Ryoma Aburame laughed twice and corrected, it should be Garashi-sama and Elder Chiyo who defeated Hanzo the Salamander. Fugaku knew that he had misspoken. It's my negligence. Chiyo waved her hand dispiritedly. This old woman only covered for a few times. Adding me in will make me look like a joke. Besides, our Sand Crypsis owed him a big favor this time. Don't let me get scolded behind my back. Raza was puzzled. A big favor? Chiyo explained, it's all because of that old guy Hanzo playing with poison. 1/3 of the ninjas on the battlefield were poisoned. This kid used the slug jutsu to teleport chakra and saved with Leaf in our Sand Crypsis. Garashi-sama, if you want to thank me I'll... Raza was brewing his emotions, but suddenly his eyes widened. Wait, you can still defeat Hanzo? The rest of the people looked at Garashi with horror in their eyes. He could still defeat Hanzo after saving half of the ninjas on the battlefield. Is this something a human can do? Ryoma Aburame was secretly horrified. This kid's strength and reputation are getting higher and higher. If I continue like this, won't I hurt Danzo-sama? Danzo was also nervous. Why do I feel that this kid is more difficult to deal with than Hiruzen? If this goes on, won't this old man be his deputy for the rest of his life? Just as Garashi was about to say a few more words, an intelligence ninja came to report, Garashi-sama, Danzo-sama, that Tsuchikage is attacking us with the army of Rock Crypsis. They dare to take the initiative to attack? Danzo coldly snorted and asked, how many of them are coming? I don't know, in short there are a lot of them. The intelligence ninja panicked, at least 15,000. What? Why so sudden? The old Tsuchikage is crazy, he's going to attack us. Everyone present couldn't believe it. Which decisive battle wasn't probing and probing? How could it be so sudden? Garashi rubbed his fingertips and muttered, they are most likely worried that the news of the defeat of the Rain Country will distract the people, so they launched the attack in advance, intending to use the mercenaries and wandering ninjas to consume our strength. Everyone looked dignified, indeed what they can think of that Tsuchikage can naturally think of. If the Rock Crypsis is unwilling to sit back and watch the mercenaries and wandering ninjas become a hidden danger, the best way is to let them play a role in advance. Humph. Inoki is really ruthless. Danzo said with disdain. All the Jonins looked strange. Danzo-sama seems to be the least qualified to say such words, right? Garashi knocked on the table, making them look over. The Rock Crypsis came too fast. There is no time to adjust the tactics too much. You should continue with the previous arrangement. As for me, with me here, the Yanbi Jinchuriki shouldn't dare to use the Bijudama, but to be cautious, I will deal with him. Chapter 198. Just as everyone in the conference room quickly agreed on the mission, two loud noises came from the outside. Then the earth trembled violently, and a strong shock wave swept through the camp, blowing the surrounding trees. The group of Jonins quickly stabilized their bodies and asked in bewilderment, what happened? Didn't you say that Rock Crypsis is still far away? Did a spy sneak in and plant a bomb to deliberately create chaos? Soon an intelligence ninja came in and reported. It was Rock Crypsis who fired the Bijudama from a distance, but fortunately they couldn't aim, so the casualties are negligible. Hearing that the casualties were small, everyone relaxed. What is this? Is this a show of strength before the war? Humph. What an arrogant declaration of war. Raza shook his head slightly. They should know that the existence of Garashi will reduce the deterrence of the Bijudama, so they used it in advance to affect the morale of our ninjas. The intelligence ninja nodded again and again. It may be because of the tragic casualties yesterday, everyone's mood is a little unstable. The Tsuchikage is really decisive. As soon as he confirmed that the Bijudama might be ineffective, he directly made a decision. Garashi sighed. Everyone secretly nodded. An enemy like the Tsuchikage is really difficult to deal with. If it was them, they may not have the courage to use this kind of battlefield killing machine. Fugaku frowned. Is there any way to improve the morale as soon as possible? Inoichi pondered for a moment and shook his head. A speech may be possible, but the time is too short, it's too late. Let me do it. Garashi strode to the outside and controlled chakra to spread his voice. Everyone, I am the commander of the coalition forces, Shimizu Garashi. Time is tight, I only have one sentence to say. In the case of short time, it's impossible for him to make a long speech. At this time, there's no need to talk about principles, there's no need to play any emotional card, as long as there are successful cases, and use the most convincing example to let them see the hope of victory. On the battlefield of Yunin, I blocked their perfect Jinchuriki. On the battlefield of Kirin, I eliminated Kirin's 7 legendary swordsmen. On the battlefield of Hidden Rain, I defeated Hanzo the Salamander and accepted his surrender, and now I will lead you to victory. Hearing Garashi's speech, everyone in the camp was stunned, and their eyes were full of disbelief. Is this record true? It's too exaggerated. Is this really something that a human being can do? Shu-sama isn't a tailed beast, is he? Most of them only knew part of Shushi's story, but they could ask and exchange information with each other. After the exchange, the whole camp was boiling. The gloomy atmosphere dissipated, and almost everyone looked at the handsome figure with adoration. That's amazing. With Master Sashi leading us, we will definitely win. Ninja Garashi-sama is too reliable. Yunin and Kirin lost, even the shinobi demigod was defeated by Garashi-sama. A mere Rock Crypsis is not a problem at all. Seeing how Soseki managed to stir up everyone's emotions with just a few words, all the Jonins were shocked. This kind of prestige and power, even the village Kage doesn't have it. Moreover, although they understand the principle of this speech, there is no way to replicate it. After all, it depends on the success of the individual. Danzo was envious, but at the same time he was depressed. He didn't have any achievements to show. If he had to say something, does forcing White Fang to death count? When it came to messing with one's own people, he was quite experienced. Raza was also bitter. His contribution to the Sand Crypsis is great, but it's not convincing at all. Do you want him to say that he, Raza, has been mining for many years, has rich experience and will lead you to become rich? Everyone sighed in their hearts, and all the ninjas gathered together and rushed to the battlefield valiantly. At the border of the land of Earth, among the marching ninja army. Tsuchikage-sama, this kind of decisiveness is really not something we can compare with. Hey, Woodleaf must be in chaos now. They must think that we will leave the Baijidama on the battlefield and they are dumbfounded. Listening to everyone's flattery, Anoki was very happy. The so-called tactics are to turn the factors that are disadvantageous to us into factors that are advantageous to us under certain circumstances. Just like the morale, they must be thinking about how to use that news to attack our morale, so we will advance. Anoki's voice stopped and he turned to look at the forest in front of him. The dense army of ninjas poured out of the forest. Not only the formation was not disordered, but even their faces didn't show the slightest sign of depression. Instead, their morale was high. What's going on? Anoki wondered. Are the ninjas of Woodleaf and Sand Crypsis getting more and more excited? A ninja with good hearing came over and said, Tsuchikage-sama, it seems to be because of that Shimizu Garashi. I heard those ninjas shouting his name as they walked. Why is it him again? Why is he everywhere? Anoki's forehead was blue, and now he finally understood Reikage and Mizukage's feelings. Or rather, sympathy. In just a few days his blood pressure has increased a lot. Yunin and Kirin, who have been tortured by this little devil for 2 years, their mentality is estimated to have exploded a long time ago. Standing opposite the rock Crypsis, Garashi came out of the crowd. Tsuchikage-sama, however, Anoki didn't even have the slightest intention of talking before the battle and directly ordered, Lava Release Team first, Fire Release Team ready to replace. He didn't despise Garashi, but he was worried that they would spread the news of Hanzo's defeat before the battle. If the battle starts directly, even if the news is released, it will be easily covered by the sound of fighting on the battlefield. Hearing Anoki's order, a team of lava ninjas quickly stood up. Lava Release, Rock Volcano. As a Kekkei Genkai of Rock Crypsis, their lava attack is naturally very powerful. The lava spewed out like a lava waterfall hanging upside down in the sky. Just a little closer, you will feel the illusion of being burned by the high temperature. Water Release Team go. Water Release, Water Shockwave. The water spit out by thousands of water ninjas almost converged into a river and rushed to the lava waterfall. Whoosh, whoosh, the water evaporated into a white mist covering the battlefield, and in the mist, there was the sound of lava condensing into rocks falling to the ground. Seeing this situation, both sides didn't have any gap in between the two sides. Fire Release Team, use Great Fireball Technique. Wind Release Team, use Great Breakthrough. Flames and wind intertwined into a fire vortex, and then into a roaring fire tornado. In this battlefield where thousands of ninjutsu were fighting, even Shursui didn't dare to go out at will. He could only stay in the formation and command everyone to fight. Chapter 199. Just like a tug-of-war between two sides, the middle boundary was pushed back and forth. But as time went by, the boundary between the two sides became more and more inclined towards Rock Crypsis. With the help of Shushi's new troops, the Allied forces had the advantage in numbers. Damn, they really weren't affected. Anoki's face was gloomy. It's not that he didn't know that his side was at a disadvantage in numbers, but when the disadvantage wasn't big, the influence of mentality was a very important factor. Unfortunately, he was wrong. Those Woodleaf ninjas weren't pretending to be calm, but they were really in high morale. As a result, they were suppressed by the firepower at the beginning of the battle and could only retreat temporarily. And retreating is a very dangerous signal. Once the formation is disrupted, Konoha's people may seize the opportunity to attack. Damn, I can only let them take the initiative. Anoki was helpless. Even if he knew that this wasn't a very good decision, he could only do this. Let the people of each unit disperse and retreat, and enter the individual combat phase. However, Woodleaf ninjas obviously wouldn't let him do as he wished. Since they had the advantage in group combat, they should implement this advantage. Garashi decisively ordered, wind, fire, water and lightning units, increase the firepower suppression. Earth units follow behind, responsible for protecting the attacking troops in front. With the Yamanaka clan's telepathy technique, Woodleaf Ninja's communication efficiency was obviously higher. Almost at the same time as Rock Crypsis retreated, they launched an orderly attack in the direction where the enemy retreated the most. For a while, all kinds of powerful ninjutsu flew over and directly submerged that area. Inoki's eyes were wide open, and his blood pressure was rising. But he couldn't do anything. No matter how strong his dust release was, it couldn't be compared with the torrent of thousands of ninjutsu. He could only watch the movement in that area gradually disappear. However, when the coalition forces concentrated their firepower, it also gave the rest of Rock Crypsis ninjas some breathing room. When the area was completely quiet, the rest of Rock Crypsis ninjas finally completed the task of breaking up. The Allied army was in the center of the map, while the Rock Crypsis ninjas were scattered all over the map. Under such circumstances, using collective firepower to suppress them would only exhaust their chakra too quickly. Therefore, Garashi quickly used the Yamanaka clan's secret technique to order everyone to fight in teams. At this moment, seeing that the Alliance army was also divided into small teams, the Rock Crypsis ninjas finally couldn't hold back their anger anymore. Besides, the Gobi Jinchuriki in red armor activated its steam form and rushed back and forth in the crowd like a train, and then rushed straight towards Garashi. Naturally, Garashi wouldn't be hurt by this kind of attack. With a tap of his toes he jumped back. Beep beep. Han stopped in place with his legs raised high, and the thrusters behind him emitted the sound of steam colliding. I am the strongest taijutsu ninja in Rock Crypsis. Han, I heard that your taijutsu is also very strong, let's have a match. Seeing Han giving him a thumbs up, Garashi had a strange look on his face. Guys who specialize in taijutsu are really abnormal. Sorry, I can't use Baijidama, you should find someone else to fight. Garashi said and jumped towards Rashi. As far as he knows, Han rarely uses Bijou mode. In other words, it's better to use chakra on Rashi first. I was ignored and I was defeated by Rashi. Han suddenly looked like he was hit hard. Rashi laughed loudly. Haha, this kid really has a good eye, he knows that I am stronger than you. While talking, Rashi directly entered the lava chakra mode, and the flowing lava dripped from his body and fell to the ground with a sizzling sound. Come and feel this old man's lava-like passion. Seeing Rashi rushing towards him like a moving volcano, Garashi quickly retreated. He wasn't interested in competing with a lava monster. Water release, great waterfall technique. Because of the inclusive nature of water, Garashi prioritized the water release among the 3 escape techniques before he developed his blood heritage. Seeing the surging waterfall pouring down from the sky, Rashi was confused. Didn't the intelligence say that you are not good at the 5 elements escape technique? Garashi stepped on the waterfall. I'm not good at the 5 elements escape technique, I'm just dabbling in it. Rashi's mouth twitched. I don't believe you. You used an A-level water release technique, and you have the nerve to say that you are not good at the 5 elements escape technique? But don't think that you can relax just because you know the water release technique. The water release technique can suppress the fire release technique, but it doesn't mean that it can suppress the lava release technique. Lava release, burning river flowing rock technique. The river of lava flowed against the current and collided with the great waterfall violently. In an instant, the steam that evaporated was extremely hot. In the next moment, Rashi rushed out of the steam and punched Garashi with his right fist covered in lava. Heat waves surged, and even the air that entered his lungs was scorching hot. Since the water release technique doesn't work, how about the ice release technique? Ice release, blizzard. Garashi opened his mouth and spat out an extremely cold breath, turning Rashi's lava fist into a stone fist. Now that he had lost his high-temperature attribute, Mustache naturally sent Old Purple flying with a punch. Boom. As a Jinchuriki with high HP and high defense, Rashi certainly wouldn't be defeated so easily, and he quickly stood up again. Why do you know ice release? Rashi asked with a trembling voice, not knowing if he was frozen or scared by Garashi. I learned ice release by combining wind and water attributes. Is it strange? Didn't you develop your lava release by yourself? Garashi said. Although the Rock Crypsis had a Kekii family with lava release, Rashi wasn't a member of that family. Hearing Garashi's words, Rashi's face was sullen. Of course it was strange. He learned from Yanbi, and it took him more than 10 years to master this Kekii limit. After a while he said, but aren't you a medical ninja? Garashi sighed, I have learned all the medical ninjutsu in the village. Anyway, I have nothing to do, so I might as well develop Kekkei limit for fun. Hearing this, Rashi's magma-flowing body was cold. Can this ninja world be good? When will we ordinary ninjas be able to stand up? Inoki, who was secretly observing the battle between the two, almost twisted his waist. Is this kid trying to develop Kekkei limit? Although in the history of the ninja world only his sensei has done it, this kid's talent and potential are too strong. He wouldn't be surprised if he pulled out a wood release from his crotch in the next moment. Thinking of this, Inoki secretly made up his mind, I must not let him live. Even if I use dust release, I must kill him. Chapter 200. As for the wood leaf sand crypsis, everyone's mood was relatively calm. Basically, Garashi-sama has developed a Kekkei Genkai. Oh, and then? It's not a Kekkei Genkai, what's there to be surprised about? Seeing their reaction, many rock crypsis ninjas were inexplicably frightened. Is this kind of thing normal in the wood leaf sand crypsis? So scary. Old Rashi held his breath, and his anger gushed out like magma. Don't underestimate this old man. Lava release, sea needle. With his entire body transformed into magma, each of his attacks carried a temperature of over 1000 degrees. His heart was like an active volcano, and the powerful eruption allowed his strength to reach an extreme. Shushi raised his hand and summoned an ice dragon, which carried with it the power to freeze everything in its path. Although it's ice release, it's completely different from Haku's ice release. In a sense, Haku's ice release is more like mirror release, and Garashi's ice release is more like a low-temperature release. Wherever the ice dragon flew, even the water in the air was frozen into ice crystals. How did this guy do it? Even I, a lava release ninja, feel cold. Old Rashi was surprised, and he directly blew the ice dragon with a magma punch. It seems that because of the magma, the broken ice melted into water and poured all over old Rashi's body. Some of the water evaporated instantly, but some of the water droplets attached to old Rashi's body. Damn it. Old Rashi, who was soaked, didn't wait for him to react. Garashi had already made his move. Ice release, ice coffin. In the next moment, the water mist condensed into ice and imprisoned old Rashi inside. Lava release, active volcano. The ice coffin was quickly broken, and old Rashi walked out with snot dripping from his nose. Bastard. Old Rashi was humiliated. A lava release ninja actually caught a cold. In anger, old Rashi began to use the power of the tailed beast in his body. Although he was still in human form, there was an extra tail behind him. Feel this old man's anger. Hearing his angry declaration, many ninjas laughed directly. This made old Rashi even angrier. Lava release, lava river. Old Purple pounded the ground with his fists like a gorilla. The ground collapsed and lava gushed out from the ground. Seeing that Old Purple was going to turn the area into a lava field, Garashi used Great Waterfall to drown the lava. He then used Blizzard to freeze the lava in the water. In the blink of an eye, the field's attributes were rewritten. Where did this bastard get so much chakra? Old Rashi was depressed. This kind of large-scale ninjutsu consumes a lot of chakra's energy. He is a Jinchuriki, so why are you, an ordinary ninja, doing this? After complaining in his heart, Old Purple chopped the ice with his hand, lifted the broken ice, heated it with magma, and shot it out with the heavy cannon. Like an indefatigable stationary battery, Old Purple fired a dozen cannonballs in succession. Those cannonballs melted into boiling water in the air and splashed towards Garashi. Garashi spat out a mouthful of bone-chilling cold air. It froze the boiling water into hailstones and then bounced them back with a gust of wind. This old man hates ice the most. Old Purple flicked his tail, and after all the hailstones were blown away, his body leaned forward slightly and directly hit Garashi with a violent posture. You'd better not talk when you have a cold. Shushi sighed. He almost misunderstood the situation. Bastard, it's all your fault, you little brat. Old Purple raised his right elbow and charged at Jianghu like a raging bull. Garashi's eyes twitched, his right fist was covered with hard ice, and he met Old Purple's fist head-on. If it was Han, he would have to consider the consequences of a head-on collision. But Old Purple's violent posture looked amazing, but in fact, it was driven by the eruption of magma and the high temperature. He didn't need to worry about these two things. Lava release, granite. Ice release, four gates, frost lotus. As if two meteorites collided, a huge roar shook the ears of the people in the distance, and the shock wave radiated outwards, directly breaking the surrounding trees and blowing them into the sky. After a moment of stalemate, Old Purple, who was exhausted, was sent flying backward with a layer of frost on his face. This kid's strength is really strong. Garashi's body only shook slightly, but his fingers were badly burned. Seeing this, he hurriedly made a seal with one hand to heal himself. Old Purple stabilized himself, raised his head, and spat out a dozen lava fireballs. These lava fireballs had the high temperature of a grand fireball and the hardness of an earthen wall. Like meteors falling from the sky, they smashed towards Garashi with a strong impact force. Garashi easily jumped to the left, but the lava fireballs chased after him. It can be controlled from a distance? Garashi was slightly surprised, and then rushed towards Old Purple's direction. Seeing this, Old Purple was a little amused. You want me to be hit by my own lava fireballs? How is that possible? I'm not the kind of person who can't control his own strength. Before he finished his words, Garashi used an illusion. In the next moment, Old Purple fell into a trance. He is not a perfect Jinchuriki, and only has a preliminary communication with the Yanbi in his body. In this case, he was naturally slow to wake up from the illusion. When Old Purple regained his consciousness, he saw the lava fireballs rushing towards his face under inertia. F***CKU. Before he could curse, Old Purple's face was covered with lava. While Old Purple was stunned by his own attack, Shushi sneaked behind him and stabbed a certain part of his body with his kunai, which was covered in a layer of frost. Hayatan, 1,000 Years of Ice. Although this move was a little bit wretched, the fact is that White Fang used to awe in the shinobi world, and its lethality is extremely amazing. Even the name Woodleaf White Fang was called Woodleaf's White Fang because of the terrible lethality of this move. However, what Garashi valued more was the effect of this move to destroy the psychological defense line. Old Purple, who thought that his mind was already quite strong, after being hit by Garashi, the coldness mixed with pain rushed from his tailbone to the top of his head, and then there was a long and sad scream. Oh. Many ninjas were frightened by his shrill cry, and when they looked at him from the corner of their eyes, their chrysanthemums tightened. He's bleeding. Can that place still be used? Hearing their frightened voices, Old Purple was even more angry. Damn bastard, watch this old man burn you. Powerful and majestic chakra poured out of his body and covered his body, condensing into a dark red-tailed beast coat. He entered the half-tailed beast mode. Seeing this scene, Garashi was not afraid but secretly nodded. Well, finally entered the third stage of the boss battle. Then he quietly entered immortal mode. Chapter 201. Seeing Rashi enter the half-tailed beast mode, many of the Rock Crypsis ninjas were worried. Didn't Rashi already use the Baijidama? Isn't it too risky to enter this mode again? It won't be good if he gets stimulated again. After a Jinchuriki goes berserk, it attacks indiscriminately, which means that they can only defeat the Jinchuriki or wait for the berserk Jinchuriki to exhaust their physical strength before they can take him away. There are too many changes that may happen. Anoki also secretly frowned. Rashi is already on the verge of going berserk. He didn't blame Rashi for his lack of practice. Anyone who is treated like that can't keep their sanity. However, this may also be an opportunity. The moment Rashi goes berserk should be the most nervous moment for him. Opposite him, Danzo coldly used wind release. How dare you be distracted in front of this old man? Anoki evaded the attack and responded with a squint. Who are you talking to about this old man? Danzo's mouth twitched. He forgot that Anoki was older than him, but he still didn't want to be outdone. Humph, dwarf. Anoki raised his hand and used dust release. What did you say, bandage kid? After entering the half-tailed beast mode, Rashi's speed and strength have been greatly improved, and some of the injuries caused before are also healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, there is no way to heal the psychological trauma. Roaring to the sky, Rashi directly spat out a super-large magma fireball. Compared to the previous one, it's about the size of dozens of small fireballs. Garashi didn't dare to face this level of magma fireball, and ice release can't work so quickly. After jumping to the side, Garashi found that the huge fireball was following him like a shadow. Such a big body can be controlled remotely? Are you afraid? Turn into ashes in the magma for this old man? Rashi roared loudly, and then saw Garashi running to the place where the Rock Crypsis ninjas were concentrated. What is this? Rashi-sama, don't be impulsive. Seeing Garashi running away, Rashi angrily said, Coward, come and fight with this old man. Garashi turned a deaf ear and walked around the field very calmly. He even summoned Katsuragi to heal everyone. Dwarf. Kid. Dwarf. Little. While Danzo and Kuroto were scolding each other like two children, they were suddenly startled. They turned around and saw Shueisha running towards them, followed by the giant fireball and Rashi. Don't come here. What are you two doing? Anoki's scared. What's chakra mode? I'm a wind release ninja. If I don't run now, am I supposed to increase the intensity of the enemy's fire? He thought to himself as he ran without any burden. Then he noticed that the movement behind him seemed to be very big. Danzo looked, Rashi, S's. Why are you following me? I'm here to give you some warmth, Danzo-sama. Seeing the warm magma behind him, Danzo almost vomited blood. He gritted his teeth and said, "This old man's is warm." Garashi was startled. He shook his head and said, "Danzo-sama, you misunderstood, I'm talking about Katsuragi." Seeing Soyuki walk away after sending the little slug out, Danzo's mouth twitched. What the hell? Finally it's almost done. Garashi sighed. Ever since he guessed that Black Zetsu might be coveting his body, he has been vigilant. Every time he fights, he uses various reasons to send Katsuragi to different battlefields. As a contractor, he can share the vision with Katsuragi. Just like the last battle with Hanzo, he released Katsuragi. In addition to winning people's hearts and paralyzing Hanzo, monitoring the situation on the field is also a very important factor. Strategically he can despise Black Zetsu, but tactically he can't relax. Damn brat, stop right there. Old Rashi almost vomited blood. Although the brat's speed is very fast, it's not like he can't catch up. But the problem is, every time the brat drilled into the rock crypts, he has magma flowing all over his body, he can't increase his speed to the limit. Hearing Old Purple's voice, Shushi turned around and rushed back. Walking the monkey is enough. The fireball also turned into a rock ball. He can continue to mess with the opponent's mentality. Garashi jumped into the air and shot at the huge rock ball that has been extinguished. Old Rashi was caught off guard and couldn't react in time. He was blasted into the ground. Normal people would naturally be crushed into a meat patty if they encounter this kind of attack, but Jinchuriki is different. With a roar, the huge rock ball exploded. Old Purple crawled out in a sorry state. You damn bastard. I'm sorry. Kurama told me that Sebai is very active. He asked me to walk him when I see him. Shushi put the blame on the fox with a serious face. Walk the monkey. Kurama? This time not only was Old Rashi angry, but the Yanbi in his body was also angry. In addition to the Kyuubi's own arrogant personality, they are more dissatisfied. Why is the Kyuubi so much stronger than them? Old Man Rikudo is unfair. Then, Chakra, which is dozens of times larger than the half-tailed beast mode, emerged, and Old Rashi's body expanded rapidly, and finally became a huge Yanbi. How did it enter the complete form directly? Anoki's eyes widened. He even forgot to attack. He thought that Old Rashi would go berserk in the half-tailed beast mode. He didn't consider the complete form at all. In the half-tailed beast mode he can suppress Old Rashi, but in the complete form, even he is not sure if he can do it. Although it has lost its mind, the Yanbi still instinctively rushed to Garashi. The earth trembled and magma surged like an active volcano, crushing all the ninjas on both sides who didn't have time to escape. It's terrible. Is this the power of a tailed beast? Run. Old Rashi has lost consciousness. In the face of Yanbi's mad dash, Shushi stood quietly in place and looked at the sky. The accumulated water vapor should be enough. The ice layer that originally froze the earth has already evaporated into water mist under the magma body. Old Rashi's running back and forth. Immortal technique, ice release, celestial phenomenon. The next moment, the bright sun was covered by thick clouds, the wind roared and a blizzard blew from the sky. As if the process was accelerated dozens of times, the blizzard covered the Yanbi at an extremely fast speed. Almost in the blink of an eye, Sebai, who had just displayed his powerful might, was completely frozen, leaving only a huge ice sculpture standing on the ground. Seeing this, everyone couldn't believe it. Are you kidding? That's the Yanbi. It can manipulate celestial phenomenon. This is the power of a god. Impossible. No matter how powerful it is, it's just a blizzard. How can it make the Yanbi unable to move? No, it's not a simple blizzard, it's a seal. Are you kidding? This level of seal. We can't win, we can't defeat this enemy. Chapter 202. For Rock Crypsis, it's not that they haven't seen a human defeat a tailed beast before. When Rashi and Han lost control, it was Tsuchikage-sama who defeated them. But that's in the case of the half-tailed beast mode. If it's in its full form, Tsuchikage-sama can only rely on the power of the whole village to suppress it, and the process is extremely difficult. Unlike Garashi who directly suppressed the Yanbi in one move, they didn't even have the courage to fight back against such a powerful force. Even the coalition forces couldn't be as calm as before. Seal the tailed beast. Fugaku stared at the scene in front of him, dumbfounded. He recalled the instigation of some of the elders, and a chill instantly surged through his heart. If we really want a rebel, Shushi alone can suppress our entire clan. Danzo was also shocked. Seal the tailed beast, this kind of thing can't be done by Hiruzen, right? Raza sighed and immediately strengthened his inner belief. In the future, we will stand on the same side as with Leaf for 100 years. When the whole battlefield was silent, Inoki, who was the first to recover his calmness, quietly raised his hands. In this world, there shouldn't be such an unreasonable genius. For the future of Rock Crypsis, you will die for this old man. Dust release, primordial world detachment technique. However, Katsuyu on Danzo's shoulder noticed his little movement, and before Garashi released the dust release, she frantically warned him. Dust release? In that case, Garashi took the kunai in his hand and aimed at the direction. In the next moment, a transparent light beam was released from Inoki's hand and crossed the battlefield, directly submerging Garashi's position. The smile on everyone's face didn't dissipate, and they saw a dazzling light blooming in front of them. A mushroom cloud rose into the air, and immediately after, circles of spatial ripples spread out in all directions at an extremely fast speed. Seeing this scene, the coalition forces ninjas were frightened. Impossible, this is absolutely not true. Garashi-sama. A Tsuchikage actually sneak attacked, too despicable. Inoki, on the other hand, relaxed his tense heart. Got it. I thought this little monster was really... But at this moment, the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground suddenly came from the center of the smoke. What's that sound? Inoki instinctively felt something was wrong. A gust of wind blew past and the smoke dispersed. Only then did everyone see the situation clearly. Garashi stood unscathed in the same place, but the giant ice sculpture in front of him had a huge tail cut off. Everyone in the alliance heaved a sigh of relief when they saw this. They relaxed and immediately became excited again. As expected of Garashi-sama, even the Tsuchikage sneak attack didn't work. It's too shocking. I still can't react. On the other hand, Inoki was incompetent and furious. This is absolutely impossible. He was hit by my dust. Inoki's eyes suddenly stopped on the kunai in Garashi's hand. Did he use the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to divert my attack at the last moment? But how is this possible? Although the casting speed of his dust release was a little slow, it was extremely fast. Compared to the Baijidama attack, he didn't know how fast it was. Even such an attack can be diverted. How fast is this kid's reaction? Inoki was tired. The opponent was too comprehensive. His various abilities were balanced to the point that he couldn't even kill him with a sneak attack. Don't be discouraged, old man. Hey. Han ran over and kicked Shushi. I'll hold him back. You go and save old Purple. That's true, but old Rashi's seal. Inoki gritted his teeth. He was not good at sealing and unsealing. In this case, did he have to fly back with such a large ice sculpture? But at this moment, there was a cracking sound from the ice sculpture. Inoki turned his head to look and guessed, although I accidentally cut off old Rashi's tail, I also happened to break the balance inside the seal. Thinking of this, Inoki's guilt of cutting off old Rashi's tail disappeared without a trace. What old Rashi lost was only a tail, but in exchange he gained freedom. Everyone protect old Rashi. Because the casting time is relatively long, dust release is actually not suitable for one-on-one combat of the same level, but the effect is excellent as a fixed defense. Especially in the case where Inoki can fly in the sky. The light of dust release swept across, and everyone in the sweep range hurriedly dodged. Yanbi's chakra is in my hand. Garashi didn't care about Inoki's actions, but secretly thought in his heart. Bastard, be serious. Han rushed up with dissatisfaction, and under the push of steam he increased his strength to the maximum. Boiling release, unparalleled strange strength. Steam? What a rare Kekkei Genkai. Garashi exhaled a cold breath. The steam behind Han first cooled and condensed into rain, then directly froze and spread to Han's body. Although Han quickly broke the ice, he still shuddered, and his sprint was interrupted. He looked at Garashi with a very uncomfortable gaze. Sure enough, I can't like this annoying ice release. At the same time, rock Crypsis ninjas from all directions used earth release to defend, and those from the lava release clan continued to use lime condensation jutsu to consolidate the walls with quick-acting cement. A few minutes later, the huge ice sculpture finally broke, and Yanbi roared angrily. Seeing this, the surrounding rock Crypsis ninjas were half surprised and half happy. Great, old Rashi finally broke the seal. Be careful, old Rashi's consciousness may not be restored yet. However, their worries were unnecessary. As soon as Yanbi roared, he fell straight down, and then changed back to his human form in front of everyone's horrified eyes. What a powerful seal! Even if it broke free, it consumed all of Yanbi's physical strength. If it wasn't for the dust release that broke the balance of the seal, it may not even have a chance to break free. A group of rock Crypsis ninjas looked at Garashi with horror in their eyes. A natural disaster-level tailed beast was sealed by him. This kind of strength is beyond their imagination. Anoki flew over and picked up old Rashi, but before he could be happy, he saw another wave of attacks coming from the ninja coalition, and he couldn't help but look dignified. It's troublesome, this retreat may cost us a lot. At this time, old Rashi, who was lifted in the air, struggled to raise his head. I'm sorry, this time it's all because of me, at least let me do something. Lava release, Flame Mountain. This is my last lava release. The huge tail that had been cut off turned into a flaming mountain range spewing lava. It stood between the two sides, blocking the path of the Alliance army. Then Han, who was fighting with Garashi, was dumbfounded. Bastard, I haven't gone over yet. Chapter 203. Seeing that more and more people were looking at him with ill intentions, the man trembled. What do you want? Hee, of course it's to F*CKU. Let's show him what we're made of. All of a sudden, all kinds of ninjutsu converged into a torrent and drowned Han. Even the Gobi Jinchuriki couldn't withstand this kind of attack. In just a few seconds, dozens of injuries appeared on Han's body. Damn it, even if I have to run naked, I can only fight. Han made up his mind and turned around to rush towards the flaming mountain. As he ran, he shouted, Old Purple, you bastard, when I go back I will definitely not let you go. Oh. Naturally, Han was not the only one who was unable to get on in time. After all, it was impossible for the flaming mountain to completely separate the two parties. These people weren't strong enough, so they were either captured by the Allied forces or burned to ashes by the flames. Then everyone looked at the flaming mountain in confusion. The ninjas who can use earth release can pass through the ground, but the problem is that opposite the mountain of flames is the retreating troops of rock Crypsis. Hundreds of ninjas will be nothing but food for rock Crypsis. As for the seal, it's not something that can be sealed by an ordinary ninja. Let me do it. Garashi quickly walked to the flaming mountain and placed the scroll on the ground. Fire sealing seal. The four-tailed chakra transformed into a gigantic flame that spanned across the entire battlefield. Bit by bit, it was absorbed into the scroll. Seeing this, everyone in the Alliance cheered. As expected of Lord Garashi, he can even seal such a huge flame. Of course, Lord Garashi can even seal the four-tailed beast, so the flames of the four-tailed beast's tail are nothing. That celestial phenomenon level sealing technique should have consumed a lot of chakra, yet he was still able to use a large-scale sealing seal. Lord Garashi is actually a tailed beast without a tail, right? Garashi put away the scroll and stood up with a smile. Let's not talk about this anymore. They shouldn't have gone far. Let's hurry up and catch up with them. As he spoke, a trace of seriousness flashed in the depths of his eyes. While squatting down to seal, he also used his ability to listen to the sound of all things to search for it. The slug was used to observe and monitor the battlefield, to guard against sneak attacks, and the sound of all things was used to confirm the existence of a certain person. As expected, he found Black Zetsu deep underground. In fact, he had also searched the battlefield in the Rain Country, but other than Black Zetsu, he had also found Yahiko and the others. Last time we could still use the excuse that he was secretly observing Nagato, but this time we can't take any chances. He wasn't afraid of Black Zetsu, but it wasn't a good thing to be watched. Most importantly, if there was a pair of eyes secretly watching him, many of his plans could not be carried out. He who strikes first gains the advantage and he who strikes late suffers. Instead of waiting for him to scheme against me, I might as well scheme against him in advance. Only by making him feel pain, cry, and afraid will he not continue to pay attention to me. This war ended with Rock Crypsis leaving more than 4,000 corpses behind. Of course, most of them were mercenaries and wandering ninjas. Rock Crypsis only suffered less than 2,000 casualties. But even so, it was enough to make Rock Crypsis's heart bleed. That was 1/10 of the strength of the entire Rock Crypsis before the war, and now the proportion will only be higher. After the war, Rock Crypsis conference room. After changing their clothes, they finally didn't look as embarrassed as before, but their spirits seemed to have been drained. All of them sat with blank eyes. The Rain country lost the battlefield, and they also suffered a major defeat. No matter how you look at it, the future of this war is bleak. Many people muttered a name to themselves. Before his arrival, they had always been on the winning side, but after that man's arrival, the situation instantly took a turn for the worse. First, San Crypsis, who had been unwilling to take the initiative to send troops, gave up. Then the famous demigod was defeated by him, and now even the main battlefield has become a turning point because of his strong-tailed beast. Shimizu Garashi is too terrible. In this silent atmosphere, Magic Leech, who has always been active, couldn't help but ask, "Tsuchikage-sama, what should we do next?" Hearing his question, the ninjas in the field looked at him with hopeful eyes. If it's Tsuchikage-sama, there must be a way. Anoki pondered for a moment. Now, there are only 2 ways to go. First, learn from San Crypsis and hide in the village. Use the terrain and layout of the village so that Woodleaf won't dare to push too much. Magic Leech hesitated and asked, "Just delay time like this? What's the use of that?" Anoki said in a deep voice, "Of course, wait for an opportunity, wait for Woodleaf's other battlefield to change." Everyone's eyes lit up. Only then did they remember that Woodleaf's enemies were not only them, but also Yunin and Kirin. But thinking of this, their eyes quickly dimmed. Come on, those 2 can't even win against one. It's better to believe that a meteorite will hit Woodleaf's army in the sky. Seeing everyone's disapproval, Anoki explained, although it may be a bit exaggerated about the role of Shimizu Garashi, it is undeniable that that kid is a person who can create miracles. His departure may be a turning point for Yunin and Kirin's battlefield. It's not exaggerated. It's indeed possible. Everyone echoed. Of course they had to agree with this statement. Otherwise, Yunin could persist for 2 years under the scourge of that kid, but they didn't even want to persist for 2 days. Wouldn't they be useless? Anoki knocked on the table and said, "In addition, I will send a request to the Mizukage and the Reikage in my personal name, persuading them to temporarily stop fighting, and after dealing with Konoha, it won't be too late to go to the dogfight." Cough, it won't be too late. Kitsuchi frowned. But Father, Reikage and Mizukage are not the kind of people who will listen to persuasion, right? Then wait and see for a while. If they don't listen to persuasion, there is only the second way to go. Anoki narrowed his eyes and said coldly, "The second way? Give up attacking Woodleaf and attack Yunin." Hearing what he said, a group of Jonin suddenly said in surprise, "Can it be like this? With the advantage, it's impossible for Konoha to stop, right?" Anoki shook his head slightly. "You don't know Sandame Naruto. He has always been a steady person. If it's him, there will be no problem. As for attacking Yunin, on the one hand, we need a target to divert the conflict in the village. On the other hand, we need someone to make up for the loss of Rock Crypsis. In addition to Yunin, those small countries between us and Yunin are also a good choice." Everyone suddenly realized that the Tsuchikage-sama wanted to take advantage of those small countries. At this time, hearing that they didn't intend to continue to attack Woodleaf, Black, who was lurking in the ground, was anxious, and directly picked a person who looked very active and directly possessed him. An ordinary Jonin, without any precautions. Naturally, it was impossible to resist Black's spiritual possession. The next moment, Magic Leech coughed, "Tsuchikage-sama, I have something to say." Chapter 204. The Tsuchikage frowned. "Magic Leech, what do you want to say?" Although there was no way to read all the memories of this body in a short time, Black Zetsu at least knew the name of this body. Seeing Anoki looking at him, he calmly replied, "Tsuchikage-sama, I don't think we should give up dealing with Woodleaf so soon." "Then what do you want to do?" "The key to the cooperation between Woodleaf and San Crypsis lies in Shimizu Garashi. As long as he is killed, the current difficulties faced by Rock Crypsis will naturally be solved." Hearing Magic Leech's answer, Anoki was quite dissatisfied. "Do you think this old man doesn't understand this truth? Even a sneak attack on the battlefield can't kill him. What else can I do?" Magic Leech said, Tsuchikage-sama, from his performance in The Seven Legendary Swordsmen and the Battlefield of the Rain Country, his weakness is actually very obvious, that is, he is too greedy. Greedy? Yes, it's greed. He doesn't want to lose anything and stubbornly believes that he can solve all the problems by himself. This was the case when he was in The Seven Legendary Swordsmen, and it was the same on the Battlefield of the Rain Country. This kind of greed will become his fatal flaw. Inoki was a little interested. Go on? Magic Leech said with a smile, using the people he cares about to set up a trap with his greed and pride. Even if he knows it's a trap, he will definitely step into it. At that time we can take the opportunity to get rid of him. Target the people around him? Inoki was a little moved and immediately tangled, but according to the intelligence, the people that the kid cares about are either medical ninjas and they don't leave the camp at all, or they are in his direct team, and they rarely leave him alone. Magic Leech didn't speak. With Shimizu Garashi's reputation, even if he didn't deliberately collect information in the beginning, he would know a lot of information, but the people around Shimizu Garashi didn't have this kind of treatment. At the very least, it had only been 1 or 2 days since he had set his eyes on Shimizu Garashi. It wasn't enough for him to thoroughly investigate Shimizu Garashi's background. But Black Zetsu wasn't worried. His purpose was to provoke Inoki to think in this direction. What happened next had nothing to do with him. After all, based on his many years of experience as a mastermind behind the scenes, the mastermind behind the scenes should not appear too often in front of others. Being exposed to the sun would cause him to lose the best cover of his shadow. Just as Black Zetsu was thinking of an excuse to make the character Magic Leech leave, Inoki looked over. By the way, Magic Leech, aren't you in charge of contacting Wuwei? Bring him here, it's time to put him to good use. What? Black Zetsu was startled. He quickly searched for the name in Magic Leech's memory. Black Jew was depressed. He had chosen this identity because Magic Leech was more active, and this kind of person's sudden suggestion wouldn't attract attention. What he didn't expect was that this guy seemed to be too active. Seeing that Magic Leech didn't respond, Inoki frowned and asked, "What's wrong? Is there a problem?" Black Zetsu reluctantly squeezed out a smile. "Of course there's no problem." Fortunately, Magic Leech's appearance was quite impolite, so it wasn't surprising that he had an ugly smile. Inoki nodded slightly. "Then I'll leave it to you." "Yes." Black Zetsu sighed in his heart. It seems that this identity has to be maintained for a few more days. Otherwise, as a key figure, Magic Leech's sudden disappearance or death will inevitably cause twists and turns in the plan. The Coalition Camp. Garashi-sama. Commander-in-Chief. Garashi walked all the way, and the ninjas of Woodleaf and Sand Crypsis greeted him with excitement and worship. Before the war, many people had doubts about Shushi's rapid rise to the top. But after the 2 wars, almost everyone was convinced of his abilities. As the commander-in-chief of the coalition army, the most important thing is to lead them to victory. As for age and character, that's just a side issue. Even if he was a bastard with a bad personality, as long as he could lead them to victory, he would be recognized. Needless to say, Shushi was perfect in all aspects. Asuma and the others were secretly shocked. Although Shushi also received the same treatment in the Eastern Front, that was the result of 2 years of accumulation. It was unlike the Eastern Front, where Shushi's faction reputation had risen to worship in just a few days. It didn't take long for them to come to a row of small wooden houses. In the yard, Nanoyu and a group of children were playing games. From time to time, there was cheerful laughter coming from inside, which seemed out of place with the outside world. Looking at the wooden house, Asuma couldn't help but ask, "Garashi, why do you think Nanoyu-sama is looking for you? Could it be that old guy Danzo is looking for trouble with her again?" "It shouldn't be." Garashi looked at him and said, "How can you call Elder Danzo like that? You have to be respectful to your senpai." Asuma squinted his eyes and said, "Although I know you are worried about me, but it's too discordant to say that." Garashi looked at him innocently and said, "How can that be? I respect Elder Danzo very much." Asuma couldn't help but laugh. "Forgive me for not being able to laugh, but this sentence is really too funny. I can't take it anymore." Garashi looked to the side helplessly. "Is this sentence that funny?" Mizuki shook his head firmly. "Of course not, Garashi, you respect Elder Danzo very much." Asuma stared at him. "Mizuki, are you serious?" Mizuki said righteously, "Things like power will only corrode people's hearts." Garashi is worried that Elder Danzo will go astray, so he has no choice but to take away the power from him and let him bear all the pain and pressure alone. Is there a problem with that? Hearing Mizuki's explanation, the team members who are already Garashi's staunch followers all sighed. If Elder Danzo had done a better job, Garashi wouldn't have to bear this pain. Garashi must be worried that Elder Danzo's wrong leadership will lead everyone further down the wrong path, so he reluctantly replaced him. As expected of Mizuki, his thinking is much more far-reaching than ours. Hearing their discussion, Asuma's eyes lost focus as he muttered to himself, "So the strange person is me?" At this time, Nanoyu also noticed everyone in the yard. She let the children play by themselves while she quickly walked out to greet them. Garashi, Kurenai, Asuma. Hello. Nanoyu-sama. Because of their relationship with Garashi, they are more familiar with each other. After exchanging a few pleasantries, everyone followed behind Nanoyu and walked in. Seeing Garashi and the others, the children were excited. Look, that's the commander of the allied forces, Garashi-sama. Where is he? That's the most handsome big brother. Oh, I know. I heard that Garashi-sama is the most powerful ninja. He defeated a gorilla as tall as a mountain. Ha, is there a gorilla as big as that? There should be. Wait, shouldn't the point be that Garashi-sama is super powerful? If I can be as powerful as Garashi-sama, I can protect everyone. Among this group of excited children, there was a bespectacled child who seemed a little shy. He only looked at everyone with longing eyes. Chapter 205. Naneu comforted the group of children before turning around with an apologetic expression. I'm sorry, it's the first time they've seen so many people here. They're a little excited and have disturbed you. Garashi smiled. It's nothing. I'm very happy to see these children. I haven't seen such pure smiles in a long time. Asuma sighed. Seeing them is like seeing my old self. Red was speechless. You're making us sound very old. Shueimu sneered. It's best if they're not like you. They don't have a background like yours. They won't survive if they're too stupid. Asuma was dissatisfied. Bastard, when was I stupid? Shueimu said calmly, really? The one who lost the class monitor is Mr. 69. Shut up. Asuma let out a baboon-like cry and exposed each other's shortcomings. Weren't you the same in the past? You're either stupid or a hypocrite. Shueimu instantly broke through. He raised his hand and a small snake rushed out from his sleeve. Shadow Snake Claw. Fire Release, Grand Fireball Technique. Seeing this, Nanea squinted and smiled. They're on good terms. Garashi smiled. Of course. Leaving the two who were still fighting, the group walked into the small wooden house. After serving tea, Nanea said, Garashi, you're busy now. I won't waste time and get straight to the point. It all started with this temporary orphanage. After the war began, Woodleaf and Rock Crypsis had been fighting in the small countries between the two countries. Other than the casualties on both sides, the peaceful lives of these small countries were also disrupted by the war. Everyone was silent. Although Woodleaf was also on the passive side from the perspective of these small countries, whether it was Rock Crypsis or Woodleaf, they were murderers who brought pain to them. In order to atone for my sins in the past 2 years, I have adopted many children who lost their families in the war. At first it was fine, but as time went by, I became a little weak. It was too difficult to take care of the hospital and the orphanage at the same time. As he spoke, Nonayu shook his head and sighed. Actually, even if it wasn't for you, Garashi, I most likely would have resigned from the hospital to take care of them. However, after I resigned, Danzo-sama came looking for me again. Ha, I told you it was him. Hearing this strange sound, everyone turned around and saw Asuma walking in with 2 sausages, hanging from his mouth. Ah, Asuma, you actually lost to Shueimu? Everyone was curious indeed. As far as they were concerned, Asuma was a genius that possessed a natural talent that was second only to Garashi during their year, so how could he possibly lose to Shueimu? Asuma heard this and said angrily, I didn't lose, Shueimu knew that he couldn't beat me, so he poisoned me at the last moment. Shueimu calmly walked in. If it was a life-and-death battle, I would have returned to the Dragon Cave and used Sage Mode. Asuma said with contempt, if I knew that you were going to use Sage Mode, would I still stay in place? I would have hidden until your Sage Mode's duration was over. Then I will use Reverse Summon again. Then I will hide again. Then I will. Garashi treated the two of them, then frowned and looked at Nonayu. Is Danzo looking for trouble again? Actually, it was before you came back, Nonayu said embarrassedly. It was during the time when you went to the Sand Crypsis. I was wondering, Garashi shook his head and smiled. I thought it was nothing. Nonayu-san, please continue. Everyone looked at Nonayu with a strange expression. Why don't you finish it all at once? Danzo almost got into trouble again. Nonayu continued. At that time, Danzo-sama came to me and said that these children weren't with Leaf's people, and that there might be spies among them. Then he asked me to give him the children over the age of 5, saying that it would help me reduce my financial pressure and replenish the strength of his root. Garashi guessed. Nonayu-san, you didn't agree, so Danzo threatened you to return to Root and carry out the spy mission. Nonayu nodded helplessly. As a former member of Root, I know Danzo-sama's style very well. If I didn't agree, I'm afraid that some of the children would have been found out to be spies. Nonayu sighed again. In fact, I should have understood that Danzo-sama's goal wasn't me, but to use me to threaten you, Garashi. It's just that he didn't expect that Garashi's counterattack would be so strong that I didn't even have to use my backup plan. Garashi nodded slightly and asked, since Danzo-sama has given up, Nonayu-san, why did you ask me to come here today? Asuma rubbed his chin. Do you want Garashi to find a reason to beat Danzo again? Everyone's mouth twitched, inexplicably feeling that Danzo was a bit pitiful. Of course not. Nonayu shook her head again and again, somewhat dumbfounded. In fact, the children heard about this matter from somewhere and thought that I had to carry out the dangerous mission because I had no money. They were worried that I would leave again, so they all clamored to become ninjas, do missions and make money to support their families. In fact, I didn't want them to become ninjas, but Danzo-sama's words also reminded me that they are not with Leaf's people. Even if they join with Leaf, it will be difficult for them to be treated the same as other villagers, but if they stay outside, it will be too dangerous. Everyone was silent. These children themselves are the most powerful proof of this sentence. Ordinary people are safer than ninjas, but that's only limited to big countries. Only by becoming ninjas, becoming the power that Wood Leaf needs, can they be truly accepted by the village. Thinking about it this way, becoming a ninja may not be a bad thing for them. Garashi suddenly said, I understand, Nonayu-san, you want me to send someone to train them? Nonayu nodded. They are not from the village, so naturally they can't enjoy the benefits of the ninja school, but I really don't feel comfortable letting Danzo-sama train them, so I can only ask Garashi to do it. Unlike the gentle learning in the ninja school, ninjas in this form are completely free, and what they can learn depends on the mood of the instructor, and even death during training can happen from time to time. Nonayu also had some regrets in her heart. It's a pity that only a few of these children have the talent to become medical ninjas, otherwise, it would be much safer for them to become medical ninjas than other types of ninjas. Looking at the hopeful eyes outside the door as well as the little guy wearing Nanoyu's glasses, Shushi smiled and said, Of course, no problem, leave them to me. Chapter 206. Hearing Garashi's promise, the people outside the door immediately cheered. After experiencing war, they are naturally eager for power. Garashi smiled and looked to the side. Sister Nanoyu, how many of these children have medical ninja skills? There are 3. She looked at Shushi with surprise and joy. Shushi, are you going to personally? Shushi? After becoming the commander of the coalition forces, I have less time to do my job. Training a few assistants will make me a little more relaxed. Garashi smiled, as long as they don't mind that I'm busy and don't have much time to teach them. Of course not, they are lucky to have you to teach them. Naturally, Nanoyu knew that Shushi was being modest. With his ability, even a jonin would find it difficult to help him, let alone a few children. Moreover, Nanoyu also knows that Garashi's teaching ability is also very strong. The 3 little girls in the hospital who took care of Garashi became chunin with the help of Garashi. Although they are only chunin is already the ceiling for most ordinary people. Being able to let the 3 little girls with ordinary talent do this naturally shows Garashi's ability. Thinking of this, Nanoyu quickly waved to the door. Ren, Fog, Kabuto, you 3 come in quickly. Shushi pondered for a moment, then walked to the door and bent down to look at the children. I'm sorry I can't teach too many people. But don't worry, I'll find you a very reliable teacher. However, this time he underestimated Nanoyu's ability. Under Yi Nayu's influence, these little fellows showed extraordinary unity and maturity. We are very grateful that Garashi-sama is willing to help us. That's right, who wants to be a medical ninja? When the 3 of them learn, we won't have to go to the hospital in the future. Naturally, they are not as uninterested in medical ninja as they said. Not to mention Garashi's strength and status, Nanoyu's identity as a medical ninja is enough to make them yearn for medical ninja. Looking at their insincere words, Garashi sighed and returned to his original seat. Nonayu laughed. Garashi is still as gentle as before. He said that because he was worried that they would be jealous. Garashi sighed. It seems that I have been in the ninja world for too long, so much so that simple things are complicated. At this time, the two little girls walked up excitedly, and the other little boy followed closely behind them. Lord Garashi, I'll be counting on you from now on. Do, hurry up and say thank you. Have you forgotten the manners taught by the dean? Do timidly said, Thank you, Lord Garashi. Please take care of me. Garashi smiled and looked at the leek, that was still very tender at the moment. We should take care of each other in the future. Looking at Pocket, Garashi could not help but think of many plans to create the perfect toolman. Such ability and talent must not be wasted like in the original track. Although one's own ability is related to postnatal training and experience, Garashi does not think that Do, who has been trained by himself, will be weaker than the original. As for talent, it can be said that it is difficult to find a few people in the entire ninja world who are stronger than Do. Jiraiya, under the careful guidance of Fukasaku Sennin, only mastered the incomplete Sage mode, but Do, without guidance, cultivated the complete Sage mode on his own. You know, with the bad character of the Sennin in the Ryuchi cave, it is impossible for them to patiently guide him like Fukasaku. Apart from the Sage mode, Do, who has been trained as a spy and even carried out spy missions for a long time, cannot get a good training, but can be close to the strength of the super genius Kakashi, who is 7 years older than him. Although there is a reason for Kakashi's self-degradation, it is enough to show his talent. Just as Garashi was thinking about how to train Do, the disappearance of a coordinate made his face change slightly. Nanoyu asked with concern, Garashi, are you okay? Garashi calmed down. After all, chakra has been fighting with enemies like demigods and tailed beasts, so it has not recovered yet. Inayu blushed. I'm sorry I disturbed your rest. Shushi, you should go back and rest. Shushi didn't refuse. He smiled and told the 3 kids what to do, then got up and left. Back in the room, Garashi seriously sensed. Sure enough, the mark of Flying Thunder God on the paper left to Wu Wei disappeared. According to the agreement, burning the paper means that the people of Rock Crypsis will move again. Thinking of this, Garashi's face was a little dignified. If the Black Zetsu incident did not happen, he has many ways to contact Wu Wei. But now he has to worry about whether this is a trap for him. It's not that he thinks Wu Wei will betray him, but for people like them, it's not difficult to bypass the person involved and set a trap. However, I can't give up the exploration because of this. It's very stupid to give the initiative to the enemy. Thinking of this, Shushi started plotting again. Although it's not sure whether Black Zetsu is involved, and it's not sure whether this is a trap for me, but I can't be careless when it comes to my own safety, even if it's a battle of wits and courage with the air. First of all, I can't contact Wu Wei with the ninjutsu system completely built by chakra. After all, Black Zetsu is the creation of the ancestor of chakra. It's hard to guarantee that he won't have any special means. In this way, the Sage system based on natural energy and the Evil God system based on soul power are all the choices I can make. At night, Garashi teleported to the battlefield with Flying Thunder God, and then sneaked in the direction of Rock Crypsis village. Garashi didn't stop until he could see the buildings in the village. There's a perception barrier in front, I have to use other means. Muttering like this in his heart, Garashi found a hidden place and buried himself. Immortal technique, listen to the voice of all things. Immortal technique, Wind Rider. In a bright room in Rock Crypsis village, Wu Wei sat quietly at the table, playing with a pencil as if thinking about something. Looking out the window from the corner of his eyes, Wu Wei mocked himself in his heart. They're really cautious. Even now there are still people monitoring outside. But at least they're giving me some face. At least they didn't swagger into the room. In fact, he also knew that Rock Crypsis didn't doubt his identity, but they should be vigilant, in order to guard against the possibility of him using his summon beast to send a message, or the possibility of someone coming in with Flying Thunder God. At this moment, a gust of wind blew in from the window. The teacup on the table shook slightly and some tea spilled out of it. Wu Wei was about to wipe it, but in the next moment, his right hand froze in midair. In his astonished gaze, the word God was written in a crooked manner on the overflowing tea. But soon, the strokes of the word formed by the tea merged together, turning into a puddle of water, as if the word was just an illusion. Do I have to use that technique? As expected of Garashi, he actually guessed my current predicament. Wu didn't continue to wipe it, but as if he suddenly had an inspiration, he quietly withdrew his right hand, and started to write and draw on the book. After writing for more than 10 minutes, he nodded in satisfaction, stood up with a yawn, wiped the water off, turned off the light, and went to bed. Chapter 207. Noticing the movement in the room, the ninja who was guarding outside was a little surprised. He went to bed so early? After all, he is still young and doesn't know that there are other activities at night. Hey, why did the topic suddenly become unhealthy? How is it unhealthy? Is it strange to play a few rounds in the casino at night? Humph. Gambling and drugs are the lowest level. Ignoring the movement outside the room, Wu kept muttering Garashi's name in his heart. After suppressing his chaotic thoughts, drowsiness surged like a tide, and Wu quickly fell into a deep sleep. When Wu opened his eyes again, he was already in a dark fog, and in the fog there were constant ravings. Although the surroundings were very strange, Wu did not panic. He pushed aside the fog and walked in the direction that the ravings were leading him to. Not long after, Wu saw a long bronze table and Garashi sitting at the head of the long table. Is this your dream manipulation jutsu? It's amazing. Wu sincerely praised. In addition to the shock in his heart, he was more looking forward to it. Garashi, who can develop this incredible ninjutsu, can realize that dream. Garashi shook his head. This jutsu has a certain risk and I don't dare to use it often. Garashi didn't lie. After developing this jutsu, he only told Wu and Mizuki. The reason is simple, the two of them have the most simple ideas. Such simple ideas can ensure that his soul will not be contaminated. Even so, he warned them not to use it unless it was a critical moment. Wu nodded. In fact, before your notice came, I was also thinking about whether to use this jutsu or not. Garashi asked, what's the situation now? Rock Crypsis wants to capture the people you care about, Garashi, and use them to set a trap for you. Wu said mockingly, but they didn't know how to catch them, so they found me and asked me to lure a few people out. These bastards really don't give up. Garashi narrowed his eyes and thought. Seeing Garashi fall into silence, Wu asked, Garashi, do you want me to reject you directly? Just say that you're too vigilant and I can't think of a way. Garashi shook his head slightly. Once evil thoughts are born, they won't dissipate easily. Instead of letting them pester us endlessly, we might as well take this opportunity to strike back. Tomorrow you can tell them that. Wu's eyes became brighter and brighter as he listened. He smiled grimly and said, I understand. The next day in the conference room, Anoki asked in surprise, have you thought of a way? There is indeed a way, but this method may not be the same as what you have previously considered. What do you mean? Wu didn't say it directly but changed the topic and asked, Tsuchikage-sama, what kind of person do you think Shimizu Garashi is? Although he didn't understand Wu's intention, Anoki still said, a genius, an out-and-out genius. Seeing Wu looking at them, although they didn't want to praise the enemy, they didn't want to say something against their will, so they lowered their voice and muttered. A very powerful character. Even if we stand in a hostile position, we have to admit that he is a difficult opponent. Isn't that right? Wu helplessly said, such a powerful character, why do you think I can deceive him? Anoki's mouth twitched. Is your method to ask us to give up? Kitsuchi frowned. Haven't you already won his trust? Kitsuchi-sama, first of all you have to understand one thing. Wu sighed, he doesn't fully trust me. My friendship with him is based on the fact that he wants to fight for the Kusanagi village. Kitsuchi pondered, you mean he isn't sure about your identity, but for the sake of the Kusanagi village, he doesn't doubt you. Wu nodded, you can say that. Anoki said gloomily, so it won't work? It's not that it won't work, Wu said in a low voice. My method is to abandon the conspiracy and use the open conspiracy to force him. Open conspiracy? Wu analyzed. Since he let me go 2 years ago for the sake of some prisoners, I understood that he is the kind of person who is too kind. This kind of person's weakness is too obvious. Hiruzen pressed his forehead and said, it's because I know his weakness that I asked you to lure his companions out. Wu shook his head, they don't have to be the bait, I can also be the bait. Everyone exclaimed in unison, you? Wu said with a smile, is it strange? He can take risks for those San Crypsis ninjas that he hasn't seen before, so it's okay to take risks for me, a superficial brother, right? Anoki hesitated, this seems to be different. Sand Crypsis at least confirmed that you are his companions, but if you suddenly do this, the possibility of your identity being seen through is too high. Wu Wei shook his head. That's why I said that you don't know him at all. As a kind person like him, as long as there is no definite evidence that I am an undercover agent, he will still choose to believe me as before. Moreover, my plan is not only this step. Hiruzen quickly asked, what other plan do you have? Under everyone's urging, Wu Wei said the answer, the Box of Bliss. Hearing this, Anoki's face was not very good. The Box of Bliss that confused that idiot Black Rock? After that incident, they sent people to study the so-called Six Paths Sage treasure, but the conclusion was that it was not a treasure that could fulfill wishes, but a container that sealed evil power. This kind of thing is not unique in the ninja world, such as the Land of Demons. There are similar legends. Anoki is not the kind of person who doesn't know anything. He knows that most people who open this kind of seal will not have a good end, so he doesn't care about it anymore. Of course, he didn't sink this unlucky thing into the sea because he also has the idea of plotting against Woodleaf. What if there is an idiot like Black Rock among them? Wu Wei explained, although you may not want to hear about this treasure, it may indeed help us. Anoki suppressed his anger. What are you going to do? Wu Wei narrowed his eyes and smiled. We can say that Tsuchikage-sama wants to get a strong power to end this war, and then you have your eyes on the Box of Bliss and asked for it from Hozuki Castle. Then, I will object that the Box of Bliss will release a monster that will destroy the world, and Tsuchikage-sama will take the opportunity to catch me and force me to tell you how to open the Box of Bliss. In this way, the logic of me being caught makes sense, and there is also the threat of destroying the world. Woodleaf has always been a protector of the world. Even if he doesn't save me, a surface ally, he has to protect the world's peace. Chapter 208. After talking about the plan, Wu Wei asked, speaking of which, you should have Woodleaf spies that you haven't dealt with yet, right? Kitsuchi replied concisely. Yes. The existence of spies isn't something that should be killed immediately. At the critical moment, they can play the role of misleading information. Wu Wei snapped his fingers. Then it's easy to do, let them pass the news back, and the rest depends on Woodleaf's reaction. Hikari said, but isn't the idea of destroying the world a bit too fake? Everyone nodded. This statement is too shameful. How can the world be destroyed just like that? Wu Wei waved his hand and said, you have to say it like that. Woodleaf's people like that. As long as world peace is involved, they will become excited. Kitsuchi nodded thoughtfully. It seems to be the case, especially that Jiraiya, all day long he says that his disciple is the child of prophecy, the savior of the shinobi world. It seems that the idea of world peace is easy to make them excited. Let's do as Wu Wei said. Anoki said, even if they don't believe in the idea of destroying the world, they have to face this old man's existence seriously. They already have the advantage. It's impossible for them to watch this old man seek power and remain indifferent. I understand. I will let this information spread out. Kitsuchi nodded slightly and asked, but there is one more problem, that is, how do we kill Shimizu Garashi? With his flying thunder god jutsu, even if he takes the initiative to get into a trap, he can easily leave afterward. Hearing Kitsuchi mention this point, everyone was also tangled. That guy's personal ability is too strong, ordinary ambushes can't kill him at all. How about we arrange a mixture of poisonous gas, the kind that is highly toxic when two harmless gases are mixed together? With his medical skills, even a mixture of poisonous gas can't have much effect. What about using genjutsu? With so many of us using genjutsu at the same time, we can always make him fall for it, right? Are you crazy? That kid's genjutsu can't even be resisted by Hanzo the Salamander. Damn it. This bastard's ability is too comprehensive. I have an idea. Seeing these Rock Crypsis ninjas getting more and more irritable, Wu Wei hurriedly said, that's the real release of the monster from the Box of Bliss. Anoki frowned. Release that monster? Wu Wei explained, at that time, please ask Tsuchikage-sama, who is holding me hostage, to pretend to be shocked by the monster. This way it will give Qingshui a chance to save me. Although I can't guarantee that he will act according to our plan, in case it succeeds, I can use my clan's unique heavenly prison ninjutsu to penetrate his body. However, my strength is still too weak compared to him. I can't imprison him for too long. Tsuchikage-sama, you must seize the opportunity when the time comes. Anoki's eyes lit up. Is that the fire that you used to imprison chakra with? It might really work. Alright, that's all for today's meeting. Everyone go back and get ready. After everyone left, Inoki asked Kitsuchi, "Were there any problems last night?" Kitsuchi lowered his voice and said, "Everything was fine." Inoki nodded with satisfaction. "Although I believe that Wu-wei won't betray us, it's always right to be careful." In his view, unless Woodleaf has the ability to predict the future, he must have arranged everything in advance before they found Wu-wei. Otherwise, even if Wu-wei has some ideas that he shouldn't have, Woodleaf can't respond in time without having a way to pass the information. After that, Inoki added, "But we still can't relax our vigilance. Before the plan starts, we can't let him have a chance to communicate with the outside world." Kitsuchi solemnly said, "I understand." In the evening, a loud roar suddenly came from Rock Crypsis village. "Absolutely not, you will destroy this world." "Stupid, what do you know? There are many ways to defeat Woodleaf, there is no need to covet." "Shut up, take him away." The commotion came and went quickly, most of the villagers didn't have time to figure out what happened. Among the crowd, an ordinary passerby pressed down the brim of his hat. "Woodleaf?" He couldn't pretend that he didn't hear it. "Destroy the world, defeat Woodleaf. What does Rock Crypsis want to do?" After using his contacts for many years, he quickly inquired more details about the incident that happened in the Tsuchikage building at that time. Ghost Lamp Castle? What? Kusanagi? What threat can they pose to Woodleaf? Anyway, let's send the information back first. The next day, the information about Rock Crypsis was placed on the table. Looking at the information, Danzo sneered, "Inoki is so anxious that he even asked Kusanagi for help." Raza pondered, "This may be an opportunity to attack Rock Crypsis while Inoki is away from the village." Shikaku's finger moved on the map. The distance between Ghost Lamp Castle and Rock Crypsis is not too far, and the movement of our army is difficult to hide. This time is enough for them to rush back, and in the end, it will only waste this precious information. Choza said, "Then stop them. Although I don't know their purpose, it's always right to destroy what the enemy wants to do." Chiyo's eyelids drooped. "That's hard to say, who knows if this is their trap." Seeing that the crowd was getting more and more enthusiastic, Raza sighed and looked at the leader. "Garashi, what do you think?" Hearing his question, everyone turned to look at him. Garashi didn't answer directly but turned to look at Inoichi. "Inoichi-sensei, do you still remember the incident 2 years ago?" Inoichi's face was dignified. "You mean the Box of Bliss?" Garashi calmly narrated, "It's called the Six Paths Sage's Treasure, a legendary artifact that can fulfill people's wishes, but from my point of view, the box only has the power to bring destruction and fear." Everyone knew Garashi's level and ceiling, and even he said so, showing the seriousness of the matter. Danzo frowned. "Inoki is aiming for this power, you said?" Garashi shook his head slightly. "I don't know, but in the current situation, it is indeed possible." Inoichi asked in a deep voice, "Garashi, what are you going to do? Are you going to stop them?" "Of course." Garashi said, "As Choza-sensei said, if the enemy wants to do something, we naturally have to destroy it." Raza pondered and said, "I'll go with you. If the opponent is the Tsuchikage, we must not be careless. Even Inoki covets the power if this old man can master it." Danzo's eyes became brighter, and he was still very confident in Inoki's vision. Thinking of this, Danzo said righteously, "This kind of thing must not be left alone. Remember to call this old man when you go." You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.